Appropriate in so many levels. Appropriate on so many levels. And also directly requested. Who am I to leave people hanging? So first of all, first comment of the night was Bruce Lee here a little bit early. Marx Cards is planning to dupe his customers from day one. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Odds are it starts late. My clock said we started at 8. So incorrect, sir. I have sniping software. So I'm going to check and see if I won. We'll definitely talk about that. So let me quickly stop this here. I always make sure that we get started. And I did win the card. There you go. So for the record, I did win the Ferguson. So it was a card for one of my PSA set registries, funny enough. So I did end up winning. That's why you said automated snipe. That way I can be talking to you guys and I don't have to worry about it. It's happening on the other screen without my intervention. So real quick here. So Marx card looked like a bunch of shady mofos. First time I've seen the YouTube, I thought the guys looked like Exxon. So we'll touch on that here in a second. Yep, so Blessing Breaks did tell me about that, yes. Now, real quick, I want to make a point about this, and then we can talk about that a little bit here. So Blessing Breaks did tell me about that, mentioned it in a comment on one of the previous videos here. Now, what I like to do whenever one of these things happens is I'm interested. I start looking into it, but it was one of those things like I heard rumors circulating, but I couldn't find anything. Like I was trying to get some information. I'm like, okay, I hear it. And then on Lucas Tigers and Bronze podcast, they made reference to it again. So I'm like, okay, so I'm hearing it from a couple places, fair enough, but I'm like, what the heck's the deal? Why can't I find anything on it? I was even looking on Blowout and stuff, like I was trying to see if I could find, or maybe it wasn't listing coming up right for me, but I was looking and I was trying to figure out what was going on. I was like, okay, I'll figure it out somewhere, but we'll find out. Yeah, class action lawsuit. So actually, we'll touch on that here in a second. So good evening, Tom. Yep. So good evening, Jeff. Good evening, Andy. RIP Marx Cards. Want your card. So did you have some things going through Marx? We'll talk about that in a second. Cole's notes. Been a long day of social media. Don't worry, Paul. I'll get to that first. And good evening, Aussie Card Dad. Okay, so let me do the same thing kind of that I did with the Logan Paul thing. I'll give the quick synopsis just so everybody's up to speed and we're all caught up. And then we can kind of chat about some of the pieces here. So first order of business. When it comes to, submitting through a third-party bulk submitter, a lot of us use some of them. Not everybody, but a lot of them do use them. But in this case, Card Collector 2 came out with an Instagram Live where he outlined some of the issues he was having specifically. So the first problem that this creates, normally, a lot of us do use them because it gives us convenience, it takes care of certain things, and they can usually get a better rate. So sometimes it works out about the same or a little bit better than submitting directly. Because, of course, you can always submit directly. That's always an option. But in this case, the specific problem was that Card Collector 2 came out that he was actually giving his cards over to Marx Cards. And Marx Cards themselves were kind of an intermediary, so they would accumulate all the orders, put everything together, give it to Marx Cards, and because Marx Cards in California, they would basically drop it off at PSA. So that was their aspect of it. The problem is when you do this, and we'll talk about the Card Collector 2 angle here in a couple of minutes, but the problem when you do this is you take your cards, you give them to a third-party Card Collector 2, who gives them to a fourth-party Marx Cards, and then in turn, that's what hands it off to PSA. So we've got this longer and longer chain of custody. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about prepayment. So in this case, Card Collector 2 got paid by folks that were submitting. He in turn paid Marx Cards in advance for this. Now, Marx Cards has the money. And PSA themselves on their end of it, well, PSA's deal is they don't actually invoice you until they grade the cards. So when they grade the cards, they give you an invoice. And then the expectation is you pay it. And then this obviously is a point of contention. Because if you don't pay, then all of a sudden the cards are stuck in limbo. PSA is sitting there holding them in their warehouse and like, well, we can't give them to you. And it creates a lot of little things. I've heard a couple of arguments back and forth and we can dispel some of that stuff. But that's the general overview. Some bulk submitters were working with Marx Cards to try to get stuff to PSA. Marx Cards has presumably not been paying PSA, therefore PSA is holding these cards. So they haven't disappeared, they're sitting in a warehouse, basically, being held over. And that's what's creating part of the problem. Did you guys want to add anything just on the initial part?
Not on the initial part, no.
Sure. All right.
That's about sums up the situation.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we at least start off with that first piece, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so real here. To be honest, all the credit goes to Bo Namath. No, that's fair. Broke the news with Lucas Tigers and Bronze. Sounds good. Thank you for that. PSA agreeing to return the cards likely avoids legal liability. Okay, so Paul has this whole thing about legal liability in PSA. So PSA has zero legal liability. None. Now, why is that? Well, and in Discord server where we're kind of chatting about it, is that you got to remember something. When you hand off your cards to a bulk submitter, they're the ones actually submitting to PSA. The customer is the bulk submitter. PSA is dealing with them, not with you. And we had a good example because one of the gentlemen on there, I won't name them. I'll kind of I'll leave it out. If they want to name themselves, if they're around, then by all means. But the point is that when they get submitted to there and they become part of the conversation, when they're submitting, they're not putting anybody's name on it. So in reality, like you could be like, oh, well, my cards are all the Tom Brady rookies and LeBron rookies and Mickey Mantle 52s. It's like, really? What a coincidence. Oh, yeah, and just the PSA 10 ones. It's like, yeah, oh, you don't say. Ah, I see. The ones that are not PSA are not yours? Ah, I got you. Because there's no way to connect the two. Because you're getting this big list of cards, and your job as PSA is to grade this list of cards and then give it back to your actual customer, who is the third, or in this case, fourth party. So there's folks in between that are kind of the problem. And if you were going to sue somebody, you'd have to sue one of the people in between, because PSA at that point is under no obligation to hand you back your cards, because frankly, they don't know which cards are yours. And even if they did, again, you didn't pay. So therefore you handed it off to them. They committed their end of the service. They don't owe you anything. Now, there's a lot of in between how we can argue about the rest of it, but that's a different thing entirely. So we'll touch on that. So good evening, Michael Ham. Absolutely. PSA may return the cards, but Marx still owes money. That's the key. So that's always, so the Marx is the one who's kind of on the hook for this, because in this case, Card Collector 2 went to PSA directly, had to communicate with them, was able to list off the cards that belonged to them, paid for it out of directly a second time, because they had paid Marx initially, but then they paid PSA directly for the fees, and then was able to take possession of the cards for their customers and be able to send it back to their customers. But in this case, Card Collector 2's out the money because they created that intermediary. Now, I don't feel super bad for them, only because you entered into an arrangement where you handed it off to another party, where now you've increased the risk. The more moving parts we have, the harder it gets, the more things that can go wrong. Now, obviously, they deserve to be made right from Marx, because that would be the right thing. But the customers in this case for Card Collector 2 were made whole, so that's good. That's a good thing. But it doesn't absolve that, hey, that was probably bad judgment to put somebody else in between, because you kind of created a little bit of a danger zone. So, Bobby, I can see you. If you're good, just let me know.
Yep.
Hey, Bobby, how's it going?
Voice working?
You're good.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, guys. What's hobbying? Is hobbies rocking and rolling?
I'm praising the content gods. That's what I'm doing, Bobby.
Jeez.
Praising the content gods,
Yeah.
as always. So, good evening, Mike. Absolutely. Good evening, Name. Yeah, I'm assuming Marx is going bankrupt. It could be. We'll have to see. Yeah, PSA being sued for class action? No shot. They're not remotely liable. In all honesty, they're like, if we're being just business-wise, they did their job. They're only guilty of doing their job and sending you the bill and expecting you to pay. So like, yeah, so it's like, from their perspective, it's like, guys, we actually did our job here. The only reason you got an invoice at all is because we actually did our job.
That's right.
Yeah. So you go, not sure how it works as far as payment group submitters. It varies. So that's kind of the tricky part, is that it varies. Some want payment in advance. Some don't. Some will only invoice you at the time of invoicing themselves. So it kind of creates that variation. So that's where it's a little bit tricky. For regular people submitting on their own, PSA charges the card they have on file when the order is complete. Exactly. So with bulk submitters, it's actually the same. So that's very true. So let me just scroll through here. Storm Marx Cards. You're going to be storming like an empty warehouse at that point. I wrote to sue Marx Cards. Okay, gotcha.
I guess the one big thing about all this is you would wish that there was low grades going there paying the bill, because you won't want to pay the upcharge, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right? If there are up charges, you expect there's going to be a charge with that. So here, Hockey. A lot of big names in bulk submitters. Yeah, SCI partners with bulk submitter. Very true. Ship My Cards partners. Yep. And that's going to make things very. That's going to be, I think, one of the downstream impact things, right? Because these companies are using. You're creating that, like I said, fourth party. You're submitting to a third party who's then working with a fourth party. And now you're making this even more complicated, because PSA in a way is a fifth party. So it's like you've got all this levels of separation. And in between, there's so much room. And the one point that I think is very accurate, and it's a good point that's being made here, and we'll touch on it in a second. So good evening, Korean Cardboard, Ink Paper Wax Selector, Content Gods. That's right. Good evening, Dustin. Good evening. Perfect. Yeah, so this one here. PSA is only guilty of not charging customers up front. That could end up being a change down the road, because it would prevent this issue. Because if you get the money up front, now here's the problem.
A certain percentage up front?
Something. But here's the thing. So here's the counterbalance to that. What if you end up with another backlog situation? Now you're holding the money for a couple of years.
It's a lot.
So you get people crying about that. In this case, we're not holding your money at all. Oh, but you're holding my cards. So do you want me to hold your money or do you want me to hold your cards? In your situation, I might be able to hold both, because what happens in this situation is that Marx Cards in this case was basically, with the Card Collector 2 example, they're basically holding this money in escrow, because of course they're charging Card Collector 2 more than what it cost them, but that's their fee. But at the same time, while they're holding this, PSA is doing its thing. PSA hasn't invoiced them yet. But the idea here is that this is not your money to spend as you wish. The idea here is this money is supposed to be held until the bill comes, and then this is used to pay the bill. And whatever's left over, that goes to you. The same as Card Collector 2. He paid already, but then whatever was on top of that he charges his customers, that was his amount. Now, in this case, he's out both sides of it. Like, in the end, from a long-term business perspective, it gives his customers confidence that he'll stand behind the product. But my question is, what about third-party graders, bulk submitters, who don't have the liquidity? Because in Card Collector 2's case, he had to pony up 110 grand to PSA to get the stuff that had been graded so far. Not everybody has $110,000 they can wire.
Is it known how long Marx was in business for?
I don't know. I know it hasn't been like a super long time, but it wasn't like a super short period of time, because obviously they've been around enough to be able to develop that kind of a business where other bulk submitters were going through them.
Oh, legendary status.
I don't think they've been around long enough to be full-fledged hobby goatum. Maybe
Okay.
maybe like demi goatum,
Yeah.
like semi goatum. So yeah, did customer CC2 know the CC2 was submitting? We don't know. I kind of doubt it. They may not have used CC2 if they knew that. Yep. It's probably from a transparency, because we do love our transparency. Probably from a transparency, it probably wasn't a good idea to leave that little detail out. Although I don't know for sure, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm behind on the hobby news today. Seems like it needs to catch up. Don't worry, we'll get you caught up here. Let's just consider Marx Cards might not have a strong record of submitted cards linked to submitter at one point. Unwinding this can be real. Yes. Absolutely. Good evening, Josh. Bankruptcy filing by Marx creates another level of unwind and difficulty. Yep. And dollars to take may not be worth the chase. I do agree with that, Jay. Thank you. Hopefully Logan Paul does not sub through them. That'd be quite a fun combination, wouldn't it? Yeah, you never have the backlog of people who are charged up front. That is true. So many less cards would have been submitted last year. So there is that side of it. That's actually not a bad point. Because imagine if you had actually been told, okay, you must pay for this up front. You can't just be banking on your tremendous profits down the road. It's like, no, you got to pay up front. If it discourages even a modest amount of people, then you don't have as big a backlog, right? So it's like a bit of a chicken or the egg thing. And then obviously they're not holding the stuff as much, so that would help from that perspective. But you're also getting less submissions. So it's like, it's an interesting business model. And obviously it's kind of come home to roost. Now there's a couple of questions about what happens, because we broached this subject a while back. And I did invite Brad. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to him tomorrow if everything goes right. And I did broach the subject to him because we had talked about it earlier. And I said to him, there's a real possibility now, and it's become higher than ever. Now we're really close to the threshold where, like, what if somebody just decided, you know what, you guys keep the cards? What's the recourse? And that's a real question. And obviously that can be a danger from PSA side of things. I don't think they're going to lose too much sleep at night, but it is something to do bear in mind, because it is a factor. So I've never used a group submission service, never will. Such small savings versus peace of mind. The grading companies make enough of their own internal mistakes, let alone group sub errors. That's fair, Mark. Like I said, it's always, you don't have to use any of them, and it is optional how you wish to approach it. I wonder how many people have bailed in their submissions. Yeah, and that's kind of the question. I don't think enough people have done it that it's been a big issue for them. But what's going to be interesting is I could see for some folks, maybe it's not worth getting it back. Like, just even the fee that they're going to have to pay, like when that bill did come due, why bother? Because for them, it'd be like, nah, keep it. Hand it back to them and like, you do with it as well. So Logan here submitted last March in 2021. No, I get you. If PSA takes the money up front, they will have a ton of N9s to refund as well. Yeah. They can keep my Mike Trouts. Yeah, those are worthless. Who would want those? So I want a bulk submitter for bulk submitter for bulk submitter for bulk submitter. I like it.
Well, shouldn't Card Collector 2 be dealing directly with PSA?
Yeah.
You would think that he is sort of at that point that he would be the direct submitter, like going through somebody else. That actually, there's extra shipping, twice extra. Well, one time extra.
It is. I think the idea. So in the IG was that he was trying to take advantage of the competitive advantage that was, because they're in California, they could directly submit. And by directly submitting, you were cutting down on processing time, because you would literally walk it in the front door.
Yeah.
So that would cut down on the time just a little bit. Even though technically you're still shipping it to California, but by having somebody walk it in the front door, it's not in the receiving area. It goes straight into the, okay, begin the process. Here we go. So
Maybe it's
there is
time
an
that you
advantage to
think
that.
You're actually even taking the whole thing yourself and get on the plane and go to California.
Oh no, well that's
At
that's basically
least,
what Brad does on for the big cards. He if
Right.
you remember the story, he walked it in basically himself. But these are big boy cards. Like
It's just,
these,
Oh, yeah.
it's just a plane ticket,
Yeah.
basically, right? You're
Yeah.
getting somewhere there for 48 hours. Go get the cards, come back. At least you're eliminating that extra set of hands that are not your hands, right?
Well, even at 120K in fees, that's a lot of money in cards that were submitted. Correct.
sorry, repeat that.
Even though there was he had to pay 120K in
It
fees
was 110 initially that he had to wire, and then 120 is the full amount that he'd be on the hook for.
for fees.
Yes.
So you can imagine the card values.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. It's like you got to look at it. There's the card values, and then there's the actual fee. This is just the grading fee. This is just whatever grades they came back, whatever that's worth. That's not even taken into account. So we'll have to see here. The opposite is also happening when bulk submitters don't charge their customers up front. They take on a huge risk. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like different bulk submitters do it different ways. For a lot of them, it's not worth the hassle to chase you down. So like normally the problem is that the individual customer chooses not to pay, and then the bulk submitter is stuck with it. So a lot of them are like, no, I'm going to charge you up front because I'm not going to chase you down.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that because the
Go for it.
reason, as a rule, when I do services, and I pay someone for something, I want to pay them at the end. I want them to fix my car first, then I'll pay them, but because of bad actors on the customer side, a lot of these group submitters are having to get their money up front because I'm having you send the card in for me. It comes back a 9. I wanted a 10. Now I'm just not going to pay you. But PSA still wants their money. So the card shop or the bulk submitter still has to pay PSA because that got graded, and now they're out. So it's really the bad actors on the customer side that is causing these businesses to ask for their money up front, where before it was pay me when it comes in. Well, if I don't get the grade that I want, I'm not paying you anything.
I keep the card. How's that?
Yeah. But if the card and the other side step, Bobby, is we know how long it's been for, and some of the comments kind of touched on it, that PSA has held cards for a year. Well, there's been a lot of movement in price for certain cards and players.
Yeah.
Someone made a comment about Bol. Well, a year ago, his cards were extremely expensive. Now you can't give them away.
Yeah.
Well, PSA had your cards for a year. When you sent it in, that was a $1,000 card. You get it back, it's now $20.
Yeah.
I guess that's a real-time risk management that you have to put into anything. You can say that about any other card that you put in, and if you're waiting 3 or 6 months, which is kind of your standard time, you can still have a fluctuating marketplace at that point, right?
Yeah. Basically anything short of overnighting, if it's got huge fluctuation, any time delay of any kind is like enough, because everything's time sensitive, right? When somebody goes crazy, all of a sudden you kind of wish, like a ComC marketplace works for this because it's already inside of an ecosystem. If you happen to have it inside, you put it up for sale, boom, it's sold, and then you're done. You don't even have to. There's no return policy. There's nothing. It's all inside of that ecosystem. And then if you want to collect, you got to push the button. But from the seller perspective, it's easy because it's already in house. It's already inside of a warehouse. But even if you got it sitting here, I got to sell it. You put it up on eBay. It lists. You sell it. You ship it out. Oh, what happens? The price drops in a week and a half. The person got it. It's cracked. In every element of the ecosystem, even buying and selling, eBay and all that, we still got the problem of time sensitivity. Now, a lot of the cards that are being held are in that lower price tier. They're value and bulk submission subs. If you had a $10,000 card, you'd already have it back.
Pretty much.
Because it would have been at the higher tier already. So you'd already have it in hand. This wouldn't even be a discussion for you. That's not the people these are not the cards we're looking at.
Unless you're lowballing it for the fees for the.
Well, then you're going to get an upcharge in your future in addition to everything else. So.
Well, which they don't mind, right?
Exactly. So PMN just says, why didn't CC2 have a contract before handing the 110? That's a CC2 question. I don't know. I assume they had some kind of a contract for the actual submission part of it, but a good
There
point
has
here.
to be
A
because
good
of
point
the
here.
insurance alone on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think a big point here that covers everything, though, and this is maybe an overarching theme, that even this is just a piece of it. We've got a lot of handshake deals and a lot of trust and a lot of entities in the hobby that over the years that it's like, should you? But should you? Maybe you do need it in a contract. Maybe you do need to put it in writing.
2-year OG status.
Yeah. So real quick here. So Paul here is just referencing about the itemized. So what happens is the bulk, again, every bulk submitter is different because there are bulk submitters who will literally just send a big old sheet of cards. So from PSA's end of it, it's not itemized name, phone number, none of it. The bulk submitter is the one doing that. Like I said, it varies. I'm not going to paint everybody with the same brush, but you got to remember that. How did Mark lose all the money? Hookers and blow. Who knows? I have no idea. It's a good question.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It really is. It really is. It really is. Marx is one of the new bros that are blessed to be making plays, making bank, incredibly blessed to be supporting his fam. I just appreciate it coming from Mike. I just try to envision it, you know, as he has his hat on backwards.
Canadian Card said it exactly right.
Yep. So Ryan made the mistake by using Marx Card. Yep. But he showed his character by paying the 100 plan to make it right for his customers. So I'll agree partially to it. I'm not going to give him too much credit because he still made, you know, it's covered by the first part of the sentence. It was a bad business move. It was a poor thing to put your trust in another party to then put you on the hook and put you in that position. It was a good move for him long term, business wise. He will learn a lot more credibility with his customers by being like, I'm going to sink my own money into this to fix it. I screwed up, so I'm going to pay it. I'm going to cut the check. My concern is about ones who would be willing to do that and may not have the liquidity to do so. If somebody else submitted a lot of stuff and they just don't have $100,000 in cash to be able to wire, it's not that they don't want to. It's that like the money's already gone. I took the money that you guys gave me and I paid them with it. And then obviously it didn't get to its destination that it should have. And that's a problem.
January, the month of bad business moves. Wow.
It's been a tough month for that, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a certain thing here, certain peace of mind when putting your valuable card in the sleeve, boxing and mailing them to nobody and greater handling it. Yeah, that's fair. And then Brad here just chiming in. Guys want to become authorized dealers with PSAs and taking on new clients. Yep, that makes sense. And another thing that some folks should bear in mind, and actually I can pull it up from a PSA because I did grab it. I thought it'd be pertinent. One key piece. So number one, the Marx listing is off the the PSA dealers list, obviously. Now there is. I'm gonna see if I can find it. But there's a little blurb at the bottom of the dealers list that I think you guys will be interested in, and when I find it, I'll read it to you. But just bear that in mind. So it would have been there have been upcharges on those PSA 10 base cards that were subbed under $10 in that big run up. I guess it depends on what the bulk limit was. I genuinely don't remember what the limit was. It depends on whether that PSA 10 would have surpassed the limit at the time. So that's kind of the key piece to that. Yep, lots of risk flying in with so many cards. Yeah. Yeah, this is why Nate bought Golden, so that you have an outlet front page. I don't think Golden is going to take your stack of like low end slabs. I don't think that's going to work. I will take the free bowls, exactly. Yep, Ryan's going to be digging in dollar box for about 100 years to make back his lost revenue. Yep. It's going to take a lot of flips. You're going to need a lot of flips, my man. Yeah, I was a customer, was a daily shopper. Mark Cards spent thousands of them, submitted dozens of cards. Can't believe this all happening. Well, unfortunately, our condolences on that, Kevin.
And I just want to say to Kevin that I've been hearing a lot of that today from people.
Yeah, no, as much fun as I had, obviously off the top, I do feel bad for the folks that were doing business with them and expected them to honor their word. So I'm not dancing on your graves. That's not fair. And that's what we're doing here. But it is interesting. So this month has been full of one thing after another thing after another thing. And the overall arching lesson here is that there are no absolutes in the hobby. We have a lot of people that have gotten these reputations in very short periods of time. Like the amount of the body of work is not good enough to warrant the amount of trust you've been given. That isn't to say don't trust anybody, because a lot of this whole thing is built on trust. A lot of these were handshake deals. But if we're talking about big dollars, we're going to have to act like adults about this and just understand that, look, it's not that I don't trust you, is that there's a lot of things. There's a lot of incentive. Yeah. Like I can't trust you that much. There's a limit to how, if it's $100 transaction, okay, fine. Sure. Probably we're good. If it's $1,000 transaction, if I've known you for a little while, that's probably good. But when we get 10,000, 100,000, $1 million transaction, okay, look, I trust you, but let's put it in writing, bro. Let's make
G.I.
sure there's some
Joe?
record. Yeah.
G.I.
exactly.
Joe?
Yeah. So it could have been anything else.
Could have been.
Anything.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Anything
Marx on
else.
chapter 11? Was there some suggestion, or I think I read something? Or
Well,
heard
it was
something?
one of the comments was saying that they're going bankrupt, and the thing is, I haven't heard anything about that, so I'm not going to spread that. I have no idea. I do know, and Eric did send it to me. So on the Sports Card Nonsense podcast, they actually were able to get the guy from Marx on the phone. He actually answered the phone. He didn't talk very long, and he didn't say much. so it's like, but basically, he's like, "Oh no, we're taking care of it." It's like it's kind of a one-man operation over here. We're busy sending stuff out, and they're like, "So like." Is it fake news? Like, is this covered? Because you got Ryan over there, by the way, who has no reason to lie on Instagram Live. He's got a very large profile. He goes, I literally have to go to PSA and pay them to get the cards so that I could get my customers their cards. And then Marx is saying, like, oh, we're going to figure this out. You know, we'll have a statement when the time is right. And it's like, sure you will. I'm sure. And PSA pulled them off the site. So, yes, of course.
But the big thing about that quick interview was, you know, and I was hearing the rumors most of the morning that this guy is, you know, disappeared. He has gotten on a plane and he's gone. No one can track him down. And he answered the shop phone and talked to a radio interviewer. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, so he's and you could hear in the background he's working. You hear him taping boxes and doing stuff while he was talking to Mike. So you know, he hasn't fled the country and taken all the money to an island yet.
Well, he better be taping some Pokemon boxes or something.
G.I. Joe's, baby.
That might be a quick way to make a buck. I hear.
Right.
Allegedly.
I heard.
I do appreciate the Daps Man reference. Daps Man would have gotten payment up front. Daps Man. Shot cards, you're getting this. So good evening, Paulie. Say, I'm happy I didn't send my Mac Jones out of 10 auto. No, good on you. I almost submitted. If it's something like that, I would genuinely prefer to do it myself. Or you better be damn sure who you're doing business with. Like, you better be damn sure. Or submit it yourself. It might be worth submitting it directly. Yeah, the bigger fear, CC2 is shipping 110K across the country. It's a wire transfer. It's a wire transfer, but yes. Yeah, so you're not shipping cash at this point. You're doing a wire transfer, a bank wire. And it's directly to PSA's accounts.
You mean it's not like the early days of eBay?
No, not so much. Testament, I don't feel, sometimes I'll remind myself of something like that. It's like, it makes me feel older than I am. I was still working in the wire transfer department in 2007 at one of the banks. And it was all paper. My job was literally to move paper from desk to desk to desk and get signatures. That was in 2007. Yeah. It might as well have been 1987.
Right.
It hadn't advanced that far. It was all paper and all paper signatures. And you had a book. And on the book, you had to make sure whose signature you got depending on the level of the wire transfer. I did once move a $4.7 billion wire transfer. From country to country was the wire. Yes.
Any names?
I don't remember. I think it was two very small countries that were literally transferring money.
One of them may have been Panama, and there may have been
Noriega,
and there may have been some family members involved in that.
I neither confirm nor deny this rumor. All I'm saying, one of my favorite things is that I did prank one of the guys in the office one time. Is that I had one of the because everything was, like I said, everything was on paper, and they don't read anything. Some of them, now this is 2007. I can't speak for what they do today, but none of them actually read it fully. They're supposed to check the bank account numbers and make sure everything matches up and whatever. I literally created one and basically just put my name on it and just put it in there and put it for like $2.7 million. And I got them both to sign off on it. And then afterwards I handed it to him. I go, did you read it? And he goes, what do you mean? He just reads it. It's like, I appreciate your $2.7 million contribution. And he goes, damn it, Carlos. Damn it, Carlos.
I did it because.
That's right. Branding. Yep. I do appreciate Bob's joke, though. Sounds like their house of cards came crumbling down. I'll give it to you, Bob. I'll give it to you. All right. Yep. Vended at the show earlier in December and was close to all the employees and Mike. Just seems like they had everything ready and rolling. Yeah. But this is the point, though. And a lot of folks report back that, oh, it seemed like they're really nice people. That does not preclude you from making poor business decisions. That does not preclude you. Being a nice person is a nice thing, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to make bad decisions. It doesn't mean that you're immune from that. It's not the case. As per wrestlers, how the handshake deals work out for them. That's correct. And you're submitting cards at the 50. You have to be a member of the PSA, at least a silver member of the PSA Collectors Club. I'm not. But if you can get it for the $50, look, if it's because similar to the $100. I think it's a step closer to getting to regular $50 service. If we get to regular $50 service, there's a couple of cards that would qualify for me at $50. $50, I'm comfortable with that. Especially, I think the $50 was up to $999. So I think what they went with, which is more than good enough for a couple of these. At $50, it's doable. At $50, I have a couple of cards that I would send in at that point.
There's a kind of a lottery though, and I think like
Right now it is, yeah. That's what I mean. Like at the moment, I'm not eligible to get in on it. But if we get to regular $50 service at $9.99, I can actually work with that. That's actually, I've got some cards that will qualify at that point.
Yeah, wait it out. There's no rush with what you're sitting on. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things though. At $50, I might actually be able to get in, even if it grades well, because it's right on that cusp borderline. And if it goes above that line, I would get upcharged anyway.
Yeah.
So like it's at the price point where like, oh, if I get a little bit under, if I just skirt under, I would get it at the $50. What's that? But that's the differentiator. If it's a 9, it's fine at 50. If it's a 10, it may get bumped to 100 anyway. So that's what I mean. Like it depends. That's what you got to kind of calculate. Mm-hmm. So he said he's working with PSA to return the cards. Yep. So if they didn't itemize it, PSA gets the Excel sheet. Yeah, I do know from what I understand, the PSA is working with them to get the cards back. Now the thing is, PSA is not going to return the cards if they do not get payment from somebody. So
Yeah,
that's
Mark,
the thing.
Mark has it. SGC is upfront. I had to pay upfront for my SGC.
Yeah, there's a real likelihood. There's a real likelihood they may have to adjust to that model. Yeah, I think as long as everybody understands it, I think it's going to be like the way going forward. It makes more sense. It really does.
Also, I don't know if every single one of Marx cards have been graded yet.
I doubt it.
The raw ones will just get returned with no charge, I would assume. I think PSA is kind of saying that they want to do right by the customer the best they can. So if they didn't get around to grading it yet, I think they're just going to send it back to you, or at least contact you and say, all right, what do you want to do? But I don't think they're going to hold raw cards. They shouldn't anyway, in my opinion. Just send them back.
Well, I think there's a real possibility, depending on how, and I'm not going to speculate on what they're going to do because I don't know, but I do think that if it comes down to the situation where they can figure it out, because if they haven't done the work and it's possible to return the cards, it would be a little easier for them to be like, okay, let's just send back the raw ones, and then there you go. But the ones that were done, the expectation I would think would be that, well, those were done. They could get paid. But yeah. So here, Blessing Breaks, they aren't going bankrupt. If you file for bankruptcy, technically you have gone bankrupt. It's for protection from your creditors, depending on which type of bankruptcy you do. But yeah, $110,000 in cards. Well, you got to remember, Mike, if it's $110,000 in grading fees, it's way more than $110,000 in cards. So, and they do, and they ship that anyway. So it's like you have to think about like $100,000 cards do get shipped. It's not by regular mail, but you're doing it by courier. So it's way more than 110. Yep. eBay days, $500 cash in a plain white envelope. Yeah. Yep. Soon we'll deliver cards in the metaverse. Love it. So not that I know of, and I wouldn't recommend it. Yep. Yeah. Here we go. 1999. Yeah. Had $1 bills. They all came in plain white envelopes. That's a fact. Yep. Yep. It's crazy. A few of the cards I got graded through SGC don't even show up in the pop report, and they were graded through Marx. It's been a few months since I had them. Okay. Fair enough. G off. I'm not going to count G off's money. I have no idea. I will say, though, that Card Collector 2, because they're operating a business and consistently turning over inventory, the likelihood is they're not sitting a bunch of cash. Now, also, Jeff Wilson, you got to remember, owns multiple businesses.
Right.
Anything he does in the hobby is still like one piece of his portfolio.
Hobby is his hobby money.
Yeah, like it's basically a thing he does in addition to other things he does.
He does it for fun. I think he's having a ton of fun in this.
Yeah, don't kid yourself. His intention is to be profitable in anything he's undertaking.
Absolutely.
But it's a second, third, fourth, eighth business for him. It's not his primary source of income. So yep, hope those cards don't get shipped via train. Yeah, you got to remember, guys. High dollar cards have been moved from PSA for years. Now, there's different arrangements depending on what kind of what cards they are and what kind of sale it is, because that's one of the things that Brad has talked about. Where in the past, sometimes he goes in and drops it, and for a higher value card, it makes way more sense to do that, right? So it's like, why wouldn't you do it that way? Georgetown Vintage, good evening. Backyard, Marx. Well, don't forget the Logan Paul also happened.
That's 4.
And
So no, that's 3. Backyard, Marx, and then Logan Paul.
Dallas.
That's true.
Dallas.
That's true. Okay, so 4, I guess. Yeah. So we're going to 6.
So what do you think
Unfortunately.
right now? The up there in Fanatics / Top Lands, they're taking notes, or
For what?
of looking like what's going on right now. Like you're taking the, let's say, the submitter out, or you're like, why don't they just pop PSA 10s and just sell them to you? Like there's no more like fraud or.
Well, the thing is
I mean, nothing stops them now, right?
what's always been
You make the card, you put it in the plastic, basically. You can
Yeah.
break it live. Like, I don't have to touch it or anything. Then
but that's always been the running joke, because companies have produced sets that are already that basically are graded,
exactly.
and they come back 8.5s directly from the factory. So it's like they're not giving you 10s anyway. They're not going to hand them to you. You still have to. It still has to qualify. Yeah, they'll charge you for it. It's like, you can keep resubmitting and keep printing them until you feel like you get a 10. But here's the thing: if everything's a 10, then there's no premium. So it's like it's basically an overpriced holder at that point. It kind of works out, right? Yeah, trains have been hitting left and right on LA, and police aren't doing nothing. Yeah. So here's Shomei says, "I'm next." Here, the next hobby news is that Carlos professes love of all things trout. It's the long con, people. The long con.
Yeah.
Turns out I've been sitting
Don't
on a
be
cachet
surprised.
for years. Turns out I've been sitting on a cachet of Trouts and Brady for years. When the time is right. And then I'll play the $1 Million Man meme again.
Oh yeah.
When the time
The
is
full
right.
version, not just the.
Oh no, you're getting the extended. The whole live stream is going to be the $1 Million Man cackling for 4.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Marx Cards just redistributed the cards to the workers of the world. That's very kind of them.
Marx was a toy a game manufacturer. Wow, same spelling. How does that work?
Yeah, he lives in the correct state for that. So
Hi, Marx. What state is that?
he lives in California. That's where this is happening. So he's in the right state.
Not Boston of ill repute. It was California of. Yeah. Yes.
All outside influence and parasitical behavior activities find a kind of home to roost. I doubt that. Not even 1/10 of 100th of 1%. Redistributing cards. Yeah. A bunch of people made the exact same joke.
Sure.
The train company is in charge of protecting the rails of the police. Yep. Only 4.5 hours short stream. Yeah, but it's just the $1 Million Man cackling. Then we'll switch over to the other. We'll switch over to the second set of clips, like the 52 overrun being dumped by the Hudson. Yep. They will be dumping all the worthless 10s in the Pacific. Yep. I'll leave him with the cargo conversation. But the bottom line is, though, for me, it's like everything else. Yeah, it makes news today, and it's fun to talk about. And I do think the real long-term consequence is that could. And by the way, I think it's a good thing. Similar to the Logan Paul thing, I'm actually for all that stuff. Not because I want people to lose their money or whatever. That's not actually the reason why. I'm good with it because it's a good abject lesson to be like, hey, let's do a little due diligence here. Let's not just enter into deals with everybody just because they seem like a nice guy. Could we do a little vetting? Could we do a little basic, let's look at this a little bit, because especially when we're talking about real money. If we're talking about real money, let's take a little bit of time and be like, let's vet some people. Let's make sure we're comfortable with it. By the way, if you submit it to Card Collector 2, in the end, he made you whole. So that's good. That's good. However, your preference would have been to know that Card Collector 2 is working with another third party. So that's important. That's an important piece of information. Then you can decide if you still want to pursue.
Disclosure is important. Yes.
That's very important, because your expectation was that he was the one submitting it. Going forward, I would think that he would understand that it's much better for him to submit it himself. And then at least he's in control of what happens between him and PSA, and they can work that out. Don't put somebody else in between and then have to figure it out. The Logan Paul thing, the immediate guy, Shine, basically gave the money back to Logan Paul. But now it's his job to go collect the money. Because once you're stuck in the middle, now you got to go do it again. So it's like, the more people you stick in the middle of this conversation, the more complicated it gets, the harder it gets to get your money. So it's like, why would you do this to yourself? Because only one thing has to go wrong. And it was part of the extended conversation we had on that Discord. It's that these third-party graders do try to protect themselves to a certain degree as best they can. And part of it is they try to make because they know that people are going to use third parties. And I did find what I was looking for, so I'm actually going to read it to you guys. And this is from the PSA site, and it's their PSA dealer list. So it's from their PSA dealer list, and it's at the bottom of the page. So I want to read it to you real quick here, and I'll show it to you guys. So
Always
I said,
at the bottom, eh?
always at the bottom, man. Always at the bottom. That's just the way it is. Okay, so here, I'll just read it to you guys. The PSA dealer directory is provided for information purposes only. Neither PSA nor its parent or affiliates make any representation or warranties regarding the qualifications or suitability of any dealer listed in the dealer directory. Additionally, PSA, its parent or affiliates have no liability whatsoever to any customer of a dealer as a result of the actions or omissions of such dealer. Sounds to me like this is a list. Good luck to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Because they can't be held responsible, really. Like they have no control over. Basically, PSA's stance is like, look, we're doing a deal with the customer. If it's a bulk submitter, they're our immediate customer. They're the ones giving us the cards. They're the ones that have to pay. After we hand over the cards, if they've paid, then whatever happens is between you and the bulk submitter. Or if they don't pay, here's the stack of cards. What do you want us to do here? That's why you have to kind of find a workaround. Like now you're going to have to figure out, in this case, there's enough cards in limbo that you're going to have to figure something out. You really are. So we'll have to see. Let's take a look here. I think DR is having a conversation separate from that, so I want to make sure. I figured more people submitting 500 Lou Bob rookies would be the flakes, not a group sub. Yeah, no, I get you. Yep, hobby keeps getting smarter. I keep hearing that.
Oh, speaking of flakes, when we're going down the list of things that have happened so far this very short year, you forgot about the half-shirt idiots.
Oh,
well, that was the backyard breaks. That was the backyard breaks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're I think officially we're on 4. We're on 4. So we're pending. We're waiting on the next one.
Yeah.
So personal finance. That actually, Dustin's comment here reminds me of something. You know how you sunk to rock bottom, and I gave it to Bobby. Probstine made fun of Steve Hart. Probstine.
That was the best.
Did you guys see this?
Best
Probstine.
video of the year so far.
He basically on his Instagram live, he pretended that he was opening a G.I. Joe like toy box, and inside of it was something that looked like a Pokemon case, and it was a Pokemon case, and inside of it he found Pokemon boxes, and he was furious. These worthless Pokemon boxes inside of my G.I. Joe box.
It wasn't a short clip. It was long.
It was a joke that he actually dragged out the joke. He even brought in a graded video game and like a couple of things. Like he went for it.
Yeah. Did he have Bill Mastro in the video with him?
He should have. That's the only way. Look, when Probstine is mocking you, how low can you go?
That's it right there.
That is official rock bottom.
I think we call that sublime.
Like amazing. I had to give it. I had to send it to Bobby because I feel you will appreciate this.
Totally.
Yeah. So
I fully did.
Yep. So Carlos reached out to me earlier about a killer seal Pokemon case he found a dumpster filled G.I. Joe cards. Of course I bought it. As you should. As you should. Remember, trust. Moving on. Yep. Sucks to see this happen. Got a few buddies taking a gut punch, but definitely is a good lesson reminder to us all. Yeah. Hopefully the takeaway here, we kind of have to make fun of it because it's gotten so ridiculous. The sheer amount of things in such a short period of time that we've gotten already this year. But there are real people that did lose money, and we're not making fun of that because that could have happened to anybody. Again, they assumed that they were in good hands. Fortunately, like I said, the Card Collector 2 is only one person in the story. There are other people who are dealing with Marx Cards that we don't know about yet, who had different kinds of deals and may have their own personal problems with a lot of this. Those folks were at least able to be made whole. That's good, but it's not the end of the story. It's only one piece of a larger puzzle here. And at least with Ryan saying his piece, at least we got to learn a little bit about what's going on. But we don't know who the other people are yet. And of course, I'm sure they'll come out on social media as time goes on. But it's still a moving thing. Because Marx obviously is still answering the phone sometimes. So like he hasn't disappeared. But at the same time, there's still some things that need to be resolved. And PSA needs to figure it out. From PSA's perspective, they, like I said earlier, for work done, I don't think it's unreasonable for them to expect to get paid for work done. But at the same time, for people whose cards are sitting there in limbo, who maybe work hasn't been done, they're probably going to try to get them back in the appropriate hands. Because if the transaction isn't going to happen, then there's no sense in hanging on to it. They're not interested in being a storage facility for a bunch of cards. They don't make money on being a storage facility. They make money on getting the cards out and the invoicing.
Yeah, the show is not sadist oriented. It's just reporting the hobby news good or bad or indifferent. The way it comes out, you're best to get that information out there rather than sit back and just be non-mindful of the hobby and just keep going on your way. We're just trying to get a little deeper. We're not looking for the bad news. It just keeps coming. But I mean, it's good to know that that stuff is out there. It gives you a little bit more education, makes you a better collector in the end of the game. Like that 79 Tops tray opening, which we might talk about tomorrow. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we'll find a window to get that in there for sure. But I think kind of to Bobby's point though, the goal here isn't to just dwell in the negative, but it's also not to sugarcoat it and make it something that it isn't. It's not to come out with pitchforks, but it's also not to just praise the glory of the hobby all the time. By the way, I still enjoy the hobby. I have fun in the hobby.
We take the mask off here.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, nice. But it's like, no, it's reality. Like this is reality.
Old rally, 1970s.
Bobby Orr.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So vetting past the fist bumps and appreciation affirmation. Crazy talk. This is facts. Facts. Dustin, I was the underbidder in the dumpster find case. Andy, you got to work harder, man. Come on. Their first edition, so even better buy. Good job, guys. Yep, the owner name's Marx Cards is... there you go. We're not going to spread rumors, Shomei. We don't do that.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah. Yeah, the pass from Ryan to Marx did not go as well as Sanderson Door. Look at that. References. We like it. We like it. All right. So Jay here says...
Brady to... No, go ahead.
Yeah. Is Probstine the modern day Jose Canseco? Oh, he wishes. Jose was great. Josie? You have to be around to get that joke. Do you think if you subbed with Marks, the PSA will transfer the cards to an account and continue and grade? My cards have been there for a year. If you sub with Marks, the PSA will transfer the cards to an account and continue grading. So right now, again, we're still figuring out certain pieces of it. My understanding is that PSA has graded a chunk of these cards. The issue isn't that they didn't grade them. The issue is that they weren't paid for the cards graded. So they're kind of just sitting there. The limbo part is that they literally have done their part of the job. The invoices come due and nobody's paid. Marx was paid and the money was supposed to go to pay this so that they could complete the transaction. It's an incomplete transaction is what's going on right now.
So just to sum that all up, so the people who submitted to Card Collector 2, did they pay them?
They paid Card Collector 2.
Card Collector 2 paid Marx. Marx
Correct.
didn't pay PSA.
That's right.
So, that's
so
where it all comes down to.
Go ahead, Yannick.
I said actually Marx did not pay PSA yet.
No, that's exactly the point. The point is that PSA did not get their money. And the PSA, from their perspective, it's not unfair for PSA to be like, wait, but we did our job in this transaction. Like, this is what's supposed to happen. The problem right now is the intermediary, and there were too many intermediaries. Because now this creates this, like I said, when we've entered into fourth party territory. And then the fourth party is the one dealing with PSA. Like, that's no good. It's too many in-betweens here.
I've never submitted, but I assume maybe in a naive way, but usually I would think the guys I'm dropping those cards to be submitted, that's it. Like, that's between him and then after this going to the grader. Right?
Yeah. So right now, I would say that there is a real likelihood. So, well, like I said, I won't speculate and I will not speak for PSA. But I do know that at the end of the day, if there's an arrangement to be made where PSA can still get paid for their stuff, then I would think there's still ways, because that's basically what Ryan did. He had to circumvent Marx. He had to basically explain the situation. They talked about it, and they basically said, look, I'm willing to pay you just so we can get this done. Can I please have custody of these cards? I will pay you what is owed for these cards so that we can get the whole thing completed. So they were able to come to that arrangement. He paid PSA for the grading that they did do, and then PSA sent him the cards. Transaction completed, and he was able to get them, and in turn. So I would think that depending on your situation, as long as they've graded the cards and they get payment for it, you should be able to find a way to get those cards. I just don't know what that would look like depending on the arrangement made and where Marx fits in that. That's just my 2 cents there, kind of as an outside party. So real quick here, Bob here. I found a picture that amused me. Some old 93 Marvel masterpieces. I am familiar with those. Bragging about how limited they were with a serial number. Only 350,000 cases. Funny thing, my younger brother opened boxes of that stuff. 92 and 93 Marvel masterpieces. They're nice cards. They weren't rare at all. There were tons of them. I think they were at the dollar store. There were tons and tons and tons of those. Nice looking cards though. If you like comics, it's really good art on a lot of those. With all this hobby shock can use it. Next week we'll hear about every Mike Medano card ever being fake. They're all fake. Again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Eric, were you in Clubhouse when Kevin Linane came in? Yes, I believe you were.
Yeah, I was I caught most of it. I was in the middle of doing a couple of things. Um, and I know I told Carlos before the show, a little bit of what was said. Um, I sure don't want to go on record repeating anything, and make promises or say that I heard things and get them wrong. If Brad's comfortable being, associated with PSA to come on and clarify some of the things Kevin said this morning, great. Um, like I said, I told Carlos a few things before the show off the record.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to speak for Kevin or PSA. Um, I'm not comfortable with that. So, but if Brad, who has more of a business agreement with them, wants to jump on and repeat it, and by all means.
Yeah.
But
No, that's
hold
fine.
out, Eric. Come on.
There's just the four of us, Eric. Anyway.
That's
Exactly.
it.
The four of us, and
You mean
70
we're
of our
live?
closest friends. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to maintain what I always say. I'm always going to talk about whatever I can verify independently. If somebody tells me something, that's what, when Bless and Breaks originally gave it to me, it had been circulating already. I heard it elsewhere, but I needed more information. I was waiting for something. Well, Ryan Card Collector 2 gave me what I needed. That was enough. I can at least speak to his story. I can't speak to everybody else's story. I can give you the general overview based on what one specific person that did business with it.
Can't be
What-
hearsay.
No, it can't be. I've got to get it from someone who was directly involved. And there's a question here, that a point that's going to lead into that as well. That's the problem. We could speculate, but it's not responsible to be like, oh yeah, I heard this thing. It's like, I heard a lot of things. But it was the same thing as the Dallas thing. The one person makes a note about that. Unfortunately, I heard 57 things about the Dallas thing, and it turned out that like 95% of it was wrong because some people went 100 and some people went 0, and it turns out both are incorrect. The truth is somewhere in between, as more information came out.
Right.
So we could take certain pieces and be like, I'm comfortable saying this part probably is all right. The rest of it is like, let's get more information and we'll see.
The only thing I will, I guess
Disclose.
I'm comfortable in saying what Kevin was talking about is he wants to make sure that the customers are whole and they get their stuff back, and they're gonna work with whoever needs to be worked with to make sure the customers are taken care of the best way possible.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's bold. You gotta say it. Sometimes you gotta go out there, Bobby. You gotta be
Yeah.
bold. You gotta be bold and say it. But here's the thing. It's a completely fair thing to say because right now, I'm trying to make sure I emphasize this. It isn't as simple as PSA, like, oh, just send these people their cars. It's like, well, actually, by doing that, PSA is basically allowing them to be stolen from as well, because they were sent the cars in good faith. They have a transaction. They have not been paid for some of these things. For the ones they've been paid, they sent them. Isn't it funny how that works? They get paid for the service, they send the cards. If that didn't happen, there's still a problem. We haven't resolved that. That doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it and figure out a way to make it work, but they still expect to get paid. And it's not an unreasonable thing to do when they did the job they were supposed to do. So here, just David, comment, and good evening. Subbed in February 2021 with submitter Gems Only, who in turn subbed with Marx. Okay, so another fourth party. Gems ghosted me for a year till I confronted the storefront, gave me my money back, but said cards were worth Marx. That's really unfortunate. And that's a bad look for Gems as well, to be honest. Gems should be forthcoming and just say like, hey, I submitted it through them as well. You shouldn't ghost the customers. You got to say something, at least communicate with them.
So, David, did Gems tell you that they submitted through Marx, or did you have to ask them first?
Yeah.
Who, in turn, I know you say did that, but they disclosed that information? Because I think going forward, you're going to have to disclose. Are you dealing directly with PSA?
Yeah,
or because you want to know where your cards are going. That extra shipping stuff gets lost. Look at what's his name? Lost all those Gretzky cards. And it was with PSA. It was right to PSA and right to the hub, and then the guy said I didn't get them. And there's a lot of crap going on with a lot of stuff. But I mean, stuff can disappear.
Yep, I think that's fair. So give me a second here. I'll put up a comment. I'm just going to take a look at something while I'm doing that. Sure. You got to think Nat knows that push because shove creates a large number of those customers never coming back. He still can't go nuclear. Paul's very keen on PSA sending people cards back that they graded for free, that they didn't get paid for. And it's like, Paul, they didn't get paid for it. The problem is the intermediaries in between. The cards are still sitting in that warehouse. If PSA gets paid for the cards they took care of, like, look, I know it's not the popular thing to back PSA on this stuff, but it's like PSA actually did their end. This is an incomplete contract, and PSA's done their end of the transaction. Your problem is with the folks in between. They're not going to send somebody for free anything. It's not, and they have absolutely no obligation to do that, legally or morally or anything else you want.
Yeah, it's not Walmart.
Yeah, it's not the way that works. But I get the idea. But a lot of folks really, really want to be like, oh, we need to be for the customer. Well, then you run your business that way, and when it fails and goes belly up, by all means, you'll be a great guy who went under.
I think we need a new definition for due diligence. I
Yeah.
think that word has been misused or abused or misaligned for sure with everybody saying what due diligence is. I think it's a cop-out for a lot of people. It's just, I did my due diligence. What is that? I kind of looked into things.
Now this here is a good question, and I genuinely don't know the answer to that. I genuinely have no idea. And I think that's one of those things where if they don't have a policy in place, I would like to see if they would put one in place. I assume they have something, but I don't know what that would be. It'd be really difficult to figure that out. But I'd be curious. Like, legitimately, I would be.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. And it's a valid question, a completely valid point. On a side note, what do you think of the lynch mob? So this is the Dallas show question. So long story short, two wrongs don't make a right on this. They really don't. In the end, there are some issues, obviously. There were a lot of conflicting reports and things. But I do think the people hanging around did no favors to the situation. Good, bad, or indifferent. If they weren't guilty, they had no business being there just hanging around, lounging around. If they were guilty, they had no business being there lounging around. The police had a job to do, and actually you're interfering. You're actually in the way. So you're actually preventing them from being able to figure out what's going on. Because at that point, it's like, okay, so was fraud committed? And, are all the cards fake? Are some of the cards fake? And it's like, if even a couple of cards are fake, you still got a problem. 99% of it could be good, but if you've got a couple of fake cards that you're trying to sell to people knowingly, that's still bad. If all the cards are fake, that's bad. If all the cards are good, then we have a problem in another way. But again, the mob being around it isn't helping either way to figure out what's going on.
Did the mob catch the guy, though?
What's that?
Did the mob catch the guy?
No.
Not really.
No.
No,
They literally
when
just,
he went to run, I think there was,
it was still one of the officers who got him.
Oh, was that?
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like you didn't help. You didn't do anything. What was funny to me is that I saw in one of the clips, one of the guys wanted to show his face for social media, so he grabbed his hoodie, and I'm sitting there like, you were literally touching a suspect.
Yeah.
If it was me, I would have arrested the guy who touched him. It's like, what are you doing? You're not involved in this. It's like you're standing there gawking is one thing, but literally you put your hands even on his shirt. Why? What is your business here?
I'm one of the biggest pro police people that I know. And I'm, who do you call in an emergency? You don't
Ghostbusters.
You don't call Ghostbusters. So I am very, very much pro police. But they're humans and they make mistakes. And I think these police officers made a mistake. They should have taken them to a quiet room somewhere, someplace away from this mob. That if you see video from inside the show, the trade night, I mean, they whipped this one guy in particular, whipped that room up into a frenzy. And these people were, out for blood after this guy whipped them all up. So they should have taken them aside someplace quiet and tried to work this thing out and figure out what the deal is. And instead, they brought them outside, and then they let 100 and something people follow them outside, to the lobby area, and there was nothing good was going to come out of that.
It's a card show. How many people are really experienced enough, at that point? And everybody's coming through different doors. It's a very difficult thing to handle. I'm very sure of that.
And the guy that demanded that everyone gets locked in and no one's leaving, and I'm in charge here and I'm running this show. And it's like, oh my God, I would have said, yeah, I'm walking out. And I talked to a guy who tried to leave, and some young girl who was working this, I'm sorry, I can't let you leave. And this guy's like, listen, I'm here with my 5-year-old. I'm leaving. And had to try to have a was having a firm disagreement with this
Mhm.
young girl working the door. And, it's just like you can't illegally hold people hostage.
I get that, but they could have funneled people through a door to check everybody who's leaving, and that would have been the better thing. I like that they locked the doors down and said, okay, coming out this door, everyone's coming out one at a time if you want to leave, and we'll make sure it's not you, not the guys who are thing. And that's how you do it, although it didn't work that way. But I think the guy saying that inside, okay, that's it, and everybody knows at that point. So if you need to go.
So Mike does make one key point, and it's important that we remind. It was the trade night, so it wasn't the show itself. It's kind of the side. It was kind of the side thing, which always creates a little bit of murkiness with it, because the problem then is that trade nights are always treated as kind of more loosey goosey kind of thing. So it's a little tricky because it's not the formal. If it was the regular card show, you'd probably take a little different approach to it. You probably also would have had more security and things like that anyway, to maybe funnel people in a different direction and do that. So I'm not excusing it, but I'm just pointing out that it creates a different dynamic. But it does mean that they're going to have to be a little bit. So when you organize a trade night, you're going to have to take into account, you know what? Something, again, we're very trusting. It goes back to that overarching theme. We're very trusting. It's like, by the way, at a trade night, you can still have problems. You can still have, by the way, even if it had turned out everything had been fine, then you have this entire situation where a bunch of people are dealing with this, and you basically created this whole commotion, and you had no way of any kind of crowd control. You had no way of getting anything. You should have been able to have the questioning in a space and be able to let the people who think something went wrong say their piece, explain what the situation is, let them have their piece, and then if you find out there's a problem, then we go from there. But the way it was handled, I don't think anybody thinks it was handled well, regardless of where you fall in the rest of it. So real quick, I got
could have been handled better if they would streamline people out or did something like that. That'd be good. But if you're to catch a thief, and having people exit in an orderly manner and checking those people on their way out, that's fair enough.
Yep. So real quick here, I'll get caught up on a couple of these comments. CC2 took a big hit. Yep. 110 is not jump change. Yeah, that's why I made the point that the fact they had enough liquidity was impressive. I'm very surprised that was the case. And yeah, we'll have to see what goes with that. But like I said, in the long term, making good with his customers is good for building goodwill with your customer. You basically put your money where your mouth is because there's no guarantee you're going to get it back. So at least for your clients, at least they felt like you offer them some protection. So long term, at least that's good for that from that perspective. Talked to Mark yesterday. He said the cards are with PSA. Prepaid. I don't know who to believe. Well, the cards are with PSA. I think we're all in agreement on that piece. And I do see one of the commenters. So we'll get that done in 2 seconds. Hang tight. So Westchester Drew, guys, I have over 14K with Marks. I doubt I'm getting my cash back, maybe my cards. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. We are hearing a lot of those stories now, especially. PSA will be okay. They can take this out of the slush fund. I'm glad the consumers who were hurt by Marks are going to be made whole. They're not going to take it out of the slush fund. There is no slush fund. Well, there is a slush fund, but it's not for that. I'll repeat. PSA will try to take care of the customers in the sense, again, I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but I guarantee they're not sending people their cards for stuff that wasn't paid. Somebody had to have paid for this card. Or if they're not graded, then probably it'd be easier to get those cards back as is without anything done. If you think that people are getting sent cards that were not paid for, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. That's just my opinion.
Especially the super high-end stuff.
Yeah. But even like low end, like why would you send it to somebody? Because I have no way of knowing what the specific situation. I basically have to go on Marx's word. Because remember, I'm dealing with Marx. They're the ones that gave me the cards. So like we have to be fair about this. We have to remember that. So real quick here, picture the PSA warehouse at the end of season traders lost art. Yep. 500 cards with PSA through Marx because they're a verified dealer on their site. PSA's culpability too. No, not for the. I specifically read those are a list of dealers. They're not authorized dealers, and they completely have an out of it because they are not responsible for what happens with those dealers. Because you are dealing with a third party. You can submit directly. So that's the thing. I get your point. But no, they're not.
If the three of you guys gave me cards and I put in a bulk submission for all of us, your problem is with me if something goes wrong, not PSA.
Right. Yep.
So
that's what I say.
Whether it's just the four of us or there's 500 of us, it
it's the same thing.
Change.
Yeah. Because PSA has no way of knowing that I paid Eric. He has no way of knowing that Bobby paid Eric. Because for all we know, Eric could have submitted them. They could have been his cards.
Yannick didn't pay me, though.
Yeah. Well, can he be trusted really?
No.
Handshake deals, good deals only. Okay.
Between the four of us, inside joke, you guys saw the video I sent. You
Not
can't
in a
trust
wink.
him. You can't trust him.
Yep. So Westchester Drew here. So I think what's going to happen is I think they're going to have to try to get in touch with as many of the people that they can that are the end users with it and figure out what to do. Getting the orders back, I don't know what that's going to look like. And I'm not going to put words in their mouth or even pretend that I know. I genuinely don't know. Yep. I want to get cash back if the slabs don't come back. Don't forget, though, PSA doesn't have the cash. So you're not going to get the cash from PSA. And that's the point here. Because if PSA had the cash, they would have sent you the cards. So that's the missing piece of this whole puzzle. Yeah. And Ken says this guy doesn't clear card. Yeah, but Ken hates the hobby. I'm joking. But he complains about almost everything in the hobby. Almost everything. And I say this with love. But he really does complain about almost everything in the hobby. All the time.
Other than the mess that that we all saw at Dallas at trade night, from what I'm hearing, the show went pretty well and people had a good time.
Yeah, it was the trade. Here's the thing. Like I said, going back to this, it wasn't the Dallas show. It was the trade night. If you didn't go to the trade night, you would have been completely unaffected. You would have been oblivious that anything even happened.
Right.
So that's why I say it's like, okay, well, if you didn't want to go to the Dallas show because you hate the Dallas show, that's fine. But none of this had to do with the Dallas show. It was the trade night. We have an Instagram group over the 6 month, about 29 people going after gems only, and until today, taking a weird turn. Okay, fair enough. Legally, Marx could be considered an agent of PSA. No. Unless if Marx wasn't vetted by PSA, what is vetting?
Yeah.
You're assuming a lot about vetting.
Betting, due diligence. What are you going to do?
Yeah, there would be potential of financial hook. I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Well, there's a difference between someone who's group submitting and someone who's an authorized dealer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Authorized dealer means you are an agent of PSA and working in conjunction.
Yeah, but even then, even with authorized dealers, and don't forget, this happens in other industries. If okay, so let's say for example, you go to a Toyota dealership. They're an authorized dealer of Toyota. Toyota takes your money and doesn't give you your car and pretends they don't know who you are. The dealership stole from you. You think you can go sue Toyota?
Good luck.
You can try. They are an authorized dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're an agent of it to a certain degree. Not strong enough connection to that because Toyota wasn't the one who took your money. It was the intermediary. So they would be like, that's a civil action. Take the civil action. That's what I mean. Like people get hung up on the authorized dealer thing. It's like, I think you are going to get away from that. It's going to be a little bit crazy. So I don't know. We'll have to see about that. So give me a second here. Just taking a look here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what John is having his issues, so I'm going to let him go. PSA with public relations nightmare if they hold a group submitter's cards over some grading fees. Cards are worth way more than the grading fees. The cards could be worth multiple thousands. To a certain degree, but at the same time, it's like the group submitter is the one that they were dealing with, and they weren't paid for the return of the cards. So I don't know what to tell you there. It was Dallas trade night. Yep, that's right. And this is the Marx Card account. I don't know if that's the Marx Card account. I really don't know. No idea. Marx has never done anything wrong, but we don't want our cards.
I am curious. I tell you, I am curious. If you listen to the Sports Card Nonsense podcast today, and when they interviewed him, he kept making these comments about how, when more information comes out, I can't talk about it now. When more information, I always hate when that happens. I assume it's legalities, but I guess we will have to wait for all the information to come out. And Card Collector 2 said a couple of times in his IG video, when I can't talk about this right now, but I will later. So there is information that the general public is not getting over this situation. And I don't know what side it benefits, but we're not getting all the information yet. And before we, set somebody on fire in the town square, we got to get all the information. If we didn't learn anything from the Dallas mess, shame on us.
Well, I would venture to say we don't learn anything from these things. It lasts about a week and then we forget about it.
Yeah.
So will Card Collector 2 have to rebuild his good name? I don't think he's going to take too much flack for it. He did, like I said, he made his customers whole. They would probably have preferred that he would have been a little bit more transparent up front, that there was another party involved in the middle. But as long as the people got their cards for their money, he's going to get some credit there for that. Like I said, I'm going to give him some credit. I can't give him all the way credit because it was still an irresponsible thing to involve another party in the middle. But in the end, he put up his money to make sure that the transaction was completed. So from the perspective of his direct clients, at least they were able to at least get their cards and for what they paid for. So that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Absolutely. Thank you, FD. Appreciate that. We try to have at least not a crook. Not even going to touch that. Why doesn't PSA take money up front? It could be a policy change. Like, I don't know why they didn't do it before, but we'll have to see. Like, I genuinely don't know. We have to see how that one works.
Yeah, in lieu of what happens, I'm sure that some things or some policies may change. For the most part, you won't get your cards back. They'll have their cards, and you really want to get your cards back. But now we have the third, fourth, fifth parties.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. The more layers you put into it, the more complicated it becomes. Because every time you add another layer, I used the analogy earlier. Let's say you submit 100 cards into your bulk submitter, and then Mark's card is part of that too. And then by the time PSA gets it, let's say you figure out people's cards. You're able to figure all that out. PSA only has 80 of the cards. Did PSA lose the cards, or did only 80 make it? I don't know, because you created this long chain of custody where now there's two people in the middle. I have no idea. So it creates this extra liability that you didn't necessarily bank on. So it's like, you did this. So it's like, I don't know. So real quick here, it could be worse if the cards had not been sent from Marx to PSA. Marx sold them. You were worse off. I hadn't heard anything except Marx was in arrears in PSA invoices. Yeah, absolutely. And right now at the moment, PSA does have the cards. So now it's just a matter of figuring out how to get it back for where they're supposed to go. And also what state they're in. Are they graded, not graded, whatever the case is, something's got to happen with that. And he had a great time. Dallas show, didn't go to trade tonight. That's fair. Where's the money, Lebowski? Love it. You never know. Eric's telegraph might be going off. It's always possible. Brittany Madoff, yep. Vetting who needs vetting, who have a fist bumps and appreciation affirmation. Well, as long as we got appreciation affirmations.
Fist bump, double bump.
Love it.
Difference, right?
Yep.
I appreciate you.
Hey, bro. Always appreciate you, bro. Good day, American amigos. Also Canadian, but yes, thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, so here we go. So this one is, like I said, this is the question we always, that was similar to the one in the Discord. Couldn't PSA be culpable for being in possession of stolen property? If I give a card to you to grade for me and you send it to PSA and it disappears, didn't you steal from me money and property? So in this case, Mark stole from you.
Yeah.
Now the problem is you have to then establish that Mark stole from you. So you're going to have to have records of what you sent over to Mark's.
And back it up.
Yeah, because all we know for sure is that Mark sent it to PSA. We have to go back a step. We have to go back a layer. We have to establish your movement from you to Mark's. Or in this case, you to card collector to Mark's. Now, card collector has records. That's why they were able to make the arrangement, because they were able to say, this is exactly what we submitted. This is how many. This is the order. This is all that stuff. The more records you have, the easier it becomes, but you basically have to wind it backwards. That's really what you're talking about. You're starting off with whatever PSA has in the inventory. You can't just cherry pick and be like, yeah, the LeBrons and the Kobe rookies and what else is good? What else you got?
What else is the 10? Yeah.
Are you sure you didn't send in Bobo rookie? Absolutely not. Those are not mine. Those are Yannick's.
He's in Boston now, thanks to everybody.
Thanks to the world.
You need Bobo in your life. Don't lie to us. You need him.
Oh, come on.
He's got two names that are exactly the same.
We
Bobo.
had Taco Fall,
yes,
who was like, this 8-foot Nigerian. That didn't work out. So they're going to give us another 8-foot Nigerian? I don't understand it. These guys suck.
Not far from the basket at 8 feet, right?
Yeah, you would think literally he could just go like this and just drop it in the bucket and drop it in the basket.
That's what Taco Fall can do, but he's horrible. And now they're sending this guy. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Keep talking this guy up. Now I'm stuck with him.
I think Andre the Giant could slam dunk.
Yeah, now he's all yours.
In his younger days, he would have been a hell of a basketball player.
That's true. Not
so much when he was older.
Yep. So we didn't learn from all PWCC and the hobby just moves on. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Which speaking to the same point about the previous one. Gary Moser. You know, investment advice and card services. That's important to me. Did CT2 tell customers the cards would go to Marx? Probably not. Probably not, Gary. Probably not. I don't think so. Even if some PSA somehow escapes liability, they 100% escape liability. Their reputation would be hit way more. Oh yes.
All the third parties escape liability.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
Steve Hart.
So here's where I remind that this is the long time hobbyist, hasn't left the hobby the whole time, going on year 32. It's like the first PSA graded card was trimmed. Everybody knows it was trimmed. It's been admitted it's trimmed. Books have been written about it. We all know it's trimmed. No one cares.
Forever.
No one cares.
No.
This whole thing is built on
Acceptable.
it.
No.
Yeah, this whole thing is built on it, because the key here is that PSA and SGC and BGS and any of them all have language and verbiage in these. You got to remember, you're entering into contracts, because PSA does have contracts. PSA is entering into contracts with everybody that they're dealing with, and part of that is that when you're dealing with a third party, PSA has several clauses, and so does SGC, and so do several others, separating themselves from liability. Because what you did is you put the card in the third party's hands. What happens next is only as long as PSA did its job, as long as PSA took possession of the cards and then theoretically graded the cards and sent out the invoicing, that's where we're at. Legal recourse, you're going to have a really tough time collecting a dime from them. About the reputational hit, half the people hate PSA anyway, and they still use them. They had a $50 thing for only silver and above collector club members. It sold out. People keep sending. They were sending it $100 and getting their stuff back pretty quick right now. But my stuff's been there for a year and a half, 2 years. Yep.
See, I think
Again,
these-
not to be overly cynical, but like, yes, I don't disagree with anything you just said, but yes,
See, the things that happen in a big way are more noticeable in the hobby, and they come to more light. When they happen in small little things and they're kind of overlooked, or sectioned in a different area that you really don't collect in, it's kind of lost. And this way, we get all this out, and people will be a little wiser going forward, because really all we're trying to do is educate the hobby to the degree that the hobby stays healthy and continues on growing and people enjoying it in a good way. So just take the information that we give you with a grain of salt, and just say, hey, we're just all trying to move on in the same way. Just want to have fun in the hobby.
I think the big fallout is going to be that I think for some folks, it will definitely give them pause on using a third-party bulk submitter.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you do have the option to directly submit if you wish. You do have that ability. You've always had that ability.
Anybody could go out of business at any time, because they could have dramatic things happen in their lives, and they might not be able to cover those things, and who knows what can happen. I'm not putting it against third-party graders. I think, if you've been dealing with a guy for a long time, you got to respect and understand and know the guy, or know the person, company. If you've been dealing with them for a long time, that's fine. But they do run into problems too. And Marx, how long was he around? Like, we didn't really establish it. I think it was a couple.
It was very short. The one, like I said, I haven't looked into it independently, but the one commenter mentioned like early 2020 or late 2020.
So just
like
when the hobby went. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, basically during the boom. During the boom. Yeah.
Yeah. They got their name, the Geo and the Goat, and they.
Yeah. So, but that's where you ran into a problem. Basically, what you did is you submitted to a bulk submitter, who then entrusted somebody who had been in the hobby for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Or tea, whatever you want.
Is there anybody that's in the chat that has done business with them, actually know the answer to that?
With Marx?
Yeah, but actually knows exactly, so we don't guess. 'Cause I think that's important part of the story.
Like I said, the only reference that I got in there was something in 2020. So if that was you who mentioned it, if you want to kind of repeat the date, by all means. I know that I hadn't heard of Marx too long, to be honest. I hadn't heard about them that long. I had heard of them, they had a YouTube channel and stuff like that. So we'll kind of have to see.
There's a lot of local card shops that do it. Different people I've heard of, but I don't know if they've been dealing with third parties. We don't know that. You just may have gotten your cards back every time, and he might be dealing with somebody who they don't know that they're dealing with somebody. And then like, where does things go at that point? So everyone's trying to make a little bit off a little bit. Well,
I think, here's the thing. Here's a takeaway. Here's an actual takeaway. you guys know that this would be a really good opportunity to be like, even if you do still want to use, even if you've got a good bulk submitter you like that you've used in the past that you've had good experiences with, it might be a good time to just ask the basic question. Hey, do you guys send anybody in between or do you go directly to PSA?
It's a key question.
It's a yes or no question. It's a simple question. And
That
as long
is-
as you get a simple answer, you're good.
That's personal due diligence.
Yeah. And you can decide from there if you're comfortable with that. If they say yes, that they send to somebody else in between, go from there and use that information to your advantage. But you may not be comfortable with that. You might be comfortable with that. But just understand that you're choosing who you want to submit to under these circumstances. So here, just Mike says, $50 card, 90-day turnaround. Don't be surprised if they hit that 90-day, no problem. Because everything they've opened up until this point is because they have the capacity to do so. They're using that, I think it was 80-20, 80% for backlog and 20% for net new. When they open this up, it means that they feel they got the capacity to hit the 90 days. That's why they chose it.
Mm-hmm.
Muggsy Bogues. Yeah, I think it was Spudweb. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Mike.
Slam dunk. Yeah.
Yep. Do you think service levels opening up as a result of cards pulled from Marx Cards? No. Look, here, one of the guys on the Discord did a little napkin math. I do love me some napkin math. If you think about how many cards Card Collector 2 submitted and how much money it was involved in it, again, we're assuming consistent pricing on it. Again, just guessing. It's napkin math. That's maybe about 40,000 cards, give or take, that could be involved in this. It could be more, but that's approximately what it would be at about the price point based on the Card Collectors 2's math on the cards he submitted versus how much money he had to pay for the grading fees. 40,000 cards is a day's production.
Mm-hmm.
Marx Cards literally is a drop in the bucket. It would be the equivalent, if that was the correct number, if it's more, whatever. But that would be 1 day's production. It's a blip on the radar screen. It's not even anything. Okay, that was today's production. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow we're grading other stuff. We're done. We're done with this. Put it on the pile. You got to remember how much they're grading. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of cards they're grading in a very, very short period of time relatively. Like the amount of plastic that's going out the door every single day. It's crazy.
Here's an interesting question. Just getting into PSA and what have you. They say it's hard finding good graders. Now, as they grow, will it be harder to get good grades? I think people are saying this because you have more people grading now, but it's hard to find good graders. But if the grades are staying consistent, then it can't be too hard because whoever's grading right now is grading consistently, are they not? So what's the difference between a good and bad grader? Nothing, because they guarantee their grades to be the same all the time. So do you know where I'm going? Do you know where I've been?
I know where you're trying to go.
I'm trying not to say it without saying it.
Yeah, but one of the problems is that my point has always been there is a published grading standard, and I will only entertain someone complaining about an element of it if they can then point to the card and say that it doesn't meet what is published. If it doesn't, that's where we can say, okay, the variance is too much, the grading is off on this, whatever. But if it meets the criteria written down, because a lot of people are like, oh, their grading sucks. It's like, so are you complaining because they graded too easy or too hard? Most of the time, nobody complains when they're grading too easy. Most of the time, they complain when they're grading too hard. Mm-hmm. So it's like I can only take your word to a certain degree. There's a limit at which I'm willing to look. I'll entertain the conversation, but like, I'll ask you the simple question. I'll be like, okay, great. So based on the published thing, so should it be a 10 or is it actually a 9? Because a grader, even if they try to keep to that standard, the graders, some of them may favor certain things. If they like the aesthetic of the card, they may bump it up in their mind comparatively. It's internal built-in bias, right?
It is.
If I'm a stickler for centering, you're a little bit off, I'm actually going to knock you further than somebody else would be like, well, actually, within the tolerance, it's fine.
Yeah, because you're looking at it as a travesty.
Yeah.
Well, the other guy's just going, oh, that's not bad.
Well, the other one is grabbing a ruler and going like, okay, does it meet the requirement? Yeah. So because it's supposed to be 60-40 centering or whatever the level is supposed to be at. Because again, a PSA 10 does not have to be perfect 50-50 centering. It doesn't.
We know that.
Yeah, but by their own definition, it doesn't have to be.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. So it's like, so as long as they met the rules that they wrote out, because it's written down, as long as it met that criteria, I'm sorry, what are we complaining about? I understand, but like, what are we complaining about? So Shomei here is just saying incorporated in September 2020. I'll take that at face value. I do appreciate you.
Yeah,
I'll take it at face value.
Sure.
So
Even less.
AIH Sports. Weird these scams are getting exposed in the last month. I think these things do come like in bunches. I think that phenomenon, it's a psychologically. I'm sure there are other time periods where we've had these little bunches and stacks all at once, but it always tends to come in these batches. Just historically, that's kind of what we find. Subbing your own cards is much more rewarding. It's not hard. Plus, PSA is getting your cards. Yeah. Some people just don't want to do it, though. They don't want to, because with PSA, you do have to do the collector club thing, which means an upfront cost. You do have to take care of it yourself and do it. I'll use Brad's example. Again, I'm not turned off from bulk submitters, but I'm only going to deal with ones where I'm comfortable. I've basically chatted with Brad enough times. I've broken bread with Brad and just hung out and just chatted and had a beer and had dinner. And when I ask the question, they're submitting the cards themselves. So and if it's like a really valuable card, he flies it in directly. So I have a different comfort level. That doesn't mean you'd have to have that necessarily. You're not going to get that with all bulk submitters. But I know that it is easier in the sense that submitting to them, they will handle the shipping both ways. The insurance is built into the price. You know what the price is up front based on what the whole thing is. I'm not guessing. I'm not trying to figure it out. Because when you submit it yourself, Slab City is 100% right. You'll know PSA is getting your cards, but you do have to make sure you take care of all of it. You got to pay for the shipping. You got to pay for the submission fee. You got to make sure you pay for the insurance. It's all got to be right.
And coming from Canada, it's a little more difficult.
It does make, for us, the customs also adds an element of a little bit of extra trickiness to it.
Yeah, because you only pay customs on the service, not on the card itself. Although it's insured for, let's say, $5,000, your fee was $150. You only pay $150, but trying to get the border to figure that out is sometimes a nightmare. Yeah,
it also depends on how they send it back, because you know that I mentioned with the ship my cards thing, I get it back by FedEx. They'll charge me customs, but they'll also charge me a fee on top of that.
Yes.
It's because they'll do the
broker
full
fee.
The broker fee. So they'll do the full insured amount, base the customs on that, and then they tack on a fee on top of it.
Yeah, the broker fee is okay, that's worth more than there you go, $30.
Yeah.
It's they must make a ton of money.
Oh, they do.
The guy making that money, he's making I don't know, probably $1,500 an hour, maybe $2,000.
But you know what the best part is? That if you think about it,
next.
The way that FedEx does their stuff with the amount of expensive packages they send, they basically can't afford people to push a button properly. I got an invoice for a FedEx package that I got in December. I went and I actually checked the invoice number, and it said, "Oh, it's already been paid." I know it's already been paid. So why'd you mail me an invoice? They literally mailed me an invoice printed in mid-January for a thing I had already paid for in December. It's like, you guys gave me the package. You're not going to give me the package if I don't pay for it. You literally stop the package if you think I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, the one problem with FedEx and UPS is that if you get something shipped from a friend and it's a gift, you're allowed $60, up to $60 free as a gift, $20 as a regular item, which is kind of sucks. But regardless, they have no place on it. And I've argued with him on the phone because I did get bills from FedEx. And I said, you don't have any place that says gift. Is this a gift? It's sale is there, but not gift. Why is gift not there? And if they don't ask it, then how do you know to put it there? So people, you lose money from ignorance of them. I said, well, why don't you put gift on there? Is it actually, that's what's on the Canada Post forms. Is this a gift, or is it a sale, or is it, what kind of transaction is it? And FedEx doesn't have it on there. It's just we will want to make money more from you. So, I get them to reverse the fees all the time because, they have to tell them it's a gift. If he tells them, if he doesn't write it down, because it has to be manually written down. It's what are you kidding? Okay. Where are you? What decade are we in? Gosh. Anyways, that was about
I sense I was built up inside of you. You needed a moment to get it out.
Oh, it's okay. I got my money back, so it didn't matter. But it's the pain in the ass argument that you have to deal with the customs on stupid stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. So Paul's a good guy because I did have the chance to chat with him a little bit on Dakota's live stream and stuff. But we have very different definitions of what the right thing is. He wants PSA to send it back to people without ever getting paid for it. No, by that definition, if it's stolen property, the right thing is for them to hand it over to the police and let you talk to the police to get your property back.
Definitely.
That would be that's the right thing.
It's definitely a good PR move. I don't know.
I agree.
And is it a good business move? Well,
it's also a bad precedent, by the way.
I was getting to that. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a good PR move, and that's usually a good business move, even though you're out some money. But you going to do this every single time?
Mm-hmm.
And again, when it goes to, we don't learn anything in this hobby. You know, us older folks in the hobby, we've already seen, you know, a collapse in the 90s when there was grading, you know, new grading companies coming out every weekend like there is now, and brick and mortar stores popping up on every corner just like there is now, and the price of cards going up, not to this level. I mean, this blows 90s out of the water. But we've already watched this movie. We know how it ends.
Who says it ends?
Well, here's let me play it out to its logical conclusion. So let me quickly play it out to its logical conclusion. I 100% understand Paul's point, and he wants the clients to be made whole, and I totally get it and I understand it. But here's what I'm thinking: the second PSA does that. Let's say they do what Paul suggests. Send them back the cards as a good faith gesture. Great PR move, right? Cool. Now every single person that doesn't feel like paying for their grading. Oh, the bulk submitter screwed me out of my money. It's like, are you sure? So you get somebody to act as a third-party submitter, don't pay for it,
Got it all
and then
planned.
demand that PSA make you whole.
We're waiting just for that day, and then
I would literally do it on thousands of cards, as many as I could get my hands on, as many as possible, because then I get my card graded for free. Sounds great. Great, it's a great deal. I love it.
Bobo tens and everything.
You can't prove it, so it's like, yeah, it's basically what you'd have to do. It's like, we'll see about that. Yeah. So wrestling, all sorts of memorabilia. I'm cool with it, but we'll wind it down a little bit. So if there's any other ideas or thoughts related to any of this about the Marx Card thing, we'll have some time on the Friday live stream to talk about it anyway. But if there's anything else that you guys want to bring up or about that, we can. Otherwise, if you want to bring up anything about the AEW cards, we can for a couple minutes while I wind her down. So I'll quickly get through these comments, but if you want to throw something in, go for it. MJF is the hero. MJF's a great character. We do enjoy him. Okay, so quick Google search. Yeah, no, I get you, show me. I haven't looked into Marx too much beyond that. Did a fist bump, Brad? Fist bump. He's done business with him. I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to worry about it too much. If they send him back, they immediately switch up from payment. Good luck with that with the stuff that's mid-flight.
Yeah.
Literally all the stuff that's mid-flight, I would then pull the con. I pull the scam. Oh, they get their money back and they don't have to pay for it? Sweet.
Gone.
Sounds good to me. By the way, there's still millions of cards in the backlog. There's a lot of cards that you could do that with right now if you open that Pandora's box.
Lots of bobos.
Yep.
I think
not sure about this
I
comment.
think money up front is the way to go with this.
Long term on net new stuff, I would consider that seriously. Like I do think it resolves certain problems, like immediately. I would do that, and obviously that's something that Nat Turner and those guys would have to take under consideration. Like honestly, I would look at doing that just to make everybody's life easier. Just like here's the cost, send it over. Now here's the funny thing though. Okay, so you take upfront payment. How do you want to calculate the upcharges?
I was just thinking that. I think you got to, they have to be back, come back later with those, and before you return them,
Yep.
But
and what if you decide you don't like the upcharges?
Yeah, there's always going to be
there's always an angle. There's always an angle.
There's always going to be something.
Yeah.
We'll send you your
PSA is not going to eat it.
grade it somewhere else.
But you can't, losing out on a few dollars is, as a company is better, than, losing out on 120,000 or whatever. So
no, I totally understand. Like, I'm not saying they're bad ideas.
Yeah.
I'm just stating that there is always going to be a consequence to any change in terms of policy that you make, because there are going to be people that have gotten used to the certain way of doing it. They actually didn't expect to pay up front, and all of a sudden you changed it on them, and they're going to complain about it. You don't do it, they're going to complain about it. You put the upcharge after, they're going to complain about it. By the way, the theme is that people like complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Just so we're clear, they like complaining. No matter what. So it wouldn't matter what they did. They would complain. So PSA gauge just gave raw or graded Marx cards back to the original owner. I think for the raw or graded, I think that could be interesting. So let's see what Jay has to say on this one. They possibly take up more liability because they could screw up the return process. Yeah, they could damage the cards. Yeah. That is always a complexity because it's a raw card, right? We haven't even put it in the holder yet. So no, I'm with you, Jay, and that's a very interesting point. It's a fair point that you make.
But PSA did nothing wrong here, right? This is
no.
I would give them all the credit, saying, I'm just doing business. You guys are all doing whatever out there. You want us to you want us to compensate for
What-
that?
What's
No.
what's the
Sorry.
great irony here is that in this situation, a lot of people are calling on them to suddenly do something that they don't normally do.
Step up.
When technically they have only done exactly what they're supposed to be doing right now. This is literally what you all signed on for. But you created this problem by putting intermediaries in between. And you didn't check to make sure there wasn't another intermediary in between.
Yeah, you're blaming the wrong person on this one. Now, like,
That's what
leave PSA out of it. I'm going to say
No, but
leave
you know what?
PSA, like,
But if we're being
they're good.
honest, like I like to be real on this whenever I do this stuff. You know why? It's because they know that if they sued Marx, they're not getting the money. If they felt like
yeah.
suing Marx, they would get the money. They would just direct it at where it's supposed to go. But instead, they're like, well, PSA has a lot of money. We'll take the money from them. It's like, they're not
Yeah.
the ones who took your money.
Right.
Oh, it's easy to chase after the person
Yeah.
who has all the money. Than it
That's
is
what
somebody
I'm
who
getting at. They're hoping that they can extract the money from somewhere else. And it's like,
doesn't. No.
they're not the ones that took the money from you.
PSA can always say, "All right, we'll crack what we have and give you the raw card back. No problem."
Yeah.
Well,
If
that's
the
what
rea-
Card Collector 2 did that. He had
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
There was no other way of getting around it without him looking bad.
Yeah.
Does he look better from this? A bit, yeah.
At least he tried. At least he did something to try to get his customers their stuff. He did try to make sure the transaction was completed.
He
He
had
did
to,
something.
otherwise his business is
Correct.
kind of wound up.
But that's what I mean. Like he took a long term view, which
So
is
he
actually
had
really
to.
good. He look a long term view to be like, hey,
I
at least
think
I
I had to view, not a long-term view. I just think it was something you had to do.
No, you didn't
Otherwise-
have. You didn't
well,
have
then
to.
you're
You
not
could
in
abandon.
business.
You could abandon the business. You could be done with it.
Well, that's yeah.
Yeah. If you want to continue to operate in the space beyond this point, it would be wise
had to
to.
do it, yeah.
You know, cut the check and deal with the consequences. And
Did
just
he want to pay it? Oh no.
no,
Oh,
absolutely
no.
not. No, absolutely not. No.
So should he sue Marx Cards? Is that what's going to happen here? And the guys in Chapter 11, like, what do you like? Good luck.
It's going to be very difficult to get their hands on the money one way or the other.
It's almost a lost cause, and that's a lot for new business. For he was probably really doing well, and that'll set him back.
Yeah.
A decent amount. Like you said, a lot of dollar bidding.
He's gonna have to do a lot of flips. He's gonna have to do a lot
double
of flips.
finger kind of going through them.
Yep. Amendment before setting up charges is part of the deal. Oh, but we'll see. That's why I say like it's very tricky to change business model mid-flight. So Mark here, good evening. PSA had a bad business model. Should have just had customers pay when the orders are submitted. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a little late now to change that rule mid-flight. But we'll have to see what happens. Golden rule: some will always complain no matter what they do in this process. Yes, that is 100% true. Cardi C, good evening. Events like this are the reason regulations will come into the space. Mandatory escrow accounts, upfront payments. I'll take the bet against you. I'll bet your beer no regulation comes into space. It'd have to be hundreds of millions of dollars over many years, and they wouldn't even think about it. They're like, you crazy kids have your fun. Enjoy your cards.
Who's
I
going
just
to figure
wanna,
it all out?
I just want to say hi to Chris.
Absolutely.
And tell him that Yannick was talking trash about him earlier.
Correct.
Oh, good.
That's valid. These
always-
are facts.
Yeah.
By the way, great video, Chris. I did comment on it in great video. Great. He did a top 50 cards in his collection.
I haven't
Great
had a chance
video.
to look at it yet, but I'm gonna.
Nicely done. Some good stuff. PSA doesn't
And
have to
Yannick,
accept.
don't talk about him like that anymore.
Yeah, inappropriate, Yannick. You should know better.
It's like yelling out a window.
Yeah, it's like yelling out a window.
I thought it was him in the video.
I agree with that.
I
Yeah,
did
that's the
too.
first.
I did too.
Perfect. Same beard, same everything.
Yeah, I did too.
What the fuck? You guys don't know enough.
Look, my only question was, it's like, has he called Eric an English muffin yet? That's what I was hoping.
Oh my god.
That's what I wanted. That was my
We
request.
use that term. What's the good terms for calling out the English? Yannick, you know them all.
Be careful, Yannick. Be careful. I might have to put a 7-second delay on you. I might have to put a 7-second delay. All right, let me read a couple of these comments here.
Back to work. Back to work.
PSA doesn't. Yannick. You can curse out Eric later. We all do it. I understand. I get it. PSA doesn't have to accept bulk submission. The problem is that individuals can bulk submit too. So how do you distinguish between a business bulk submitting and an individual who just has a lot of cards? Because there are some who do. Nolan and Lico 3 submits stacks of stuff all the time. So is he a business? He's working a business for himself. He's submitting his own stuff in bulk. Does that count? Like, so I get the point, but it's like, it's a bit hard to be like, yeah, you can't do it. It's like, okay, oh, well, if you're an individual, it's okay. It's like, okay, what if the individual then becomes the business that other people use as the conduit?
Well, PSA, yeah, they have dropped the ball. I think that they should have been charging up front. And
I
actually,
agree. I agree.
this eliminates all of that. I understand that. But however, it's still not their fault at that point. So you just have to kind of say, okay, these going forward, maybe this is something they would do. And I'm very sure they're going to look at this because it's probably the first occurrence in such a large sum of late, I would say.
Yeah, I think what it'll do is it'll give them ideas that, like, if this was always possible, they should have been aware that this was. But that's why I say that I think for the folks that are talking about the litigious side of it, you don't think that PSA at least went under their old world of Collectors Universe didn't realize that there was a possibility a dealer could go rogue. They didn't think that possibility. They didn't consider that possibility and put language in there somewhere to be like, nope.
Maybe it's just the first time we hear about it.
Yeah, there's almost. I can guarantee you that possibility has always been in play, and they would have terrible lawyers who should be immediately fired if somebody didn't at least think about clauses that'll get you out of that. Because SGC has some clauses about third parties that they include in there to make it explicit. We are not responsible with what happens with a third party. We are not responsible. And if SGC made sure to cover that, you don't think PSA made sure to cover that? I'd ask Beckett, but nobody can reach them. As the old saying goes, you can only please 50% of people 50% of the time. Yep. All it takes is one influential person to bring it back. I totally get you. But we can barely get legislation passed that is needed. Imagine regulation. Can we get the card regulation on the docket? Sure. Stick it with the healthcare bill. Downvoted. Oh, man. Brutal.
PSA is not perfect. Not like the Gretzky 10s, but I mean...
don't get me started.
Gretzky 10s.
Get me started.
Andrew Peachy on top of that. Isn't that funny, Eric?
Nice.
Oh,
I find it hard to believe that people in the hobby would
cuts.
complain. Yes. The government has NFTs and crypto to worry about. Yeah, they're not going to prioritize that. So Hobby Champs is saying about the bulk submission, put caps on bulk submitters. Then you just get more people to do it.
Yeah.
Like, no, but here's the thing, though. If you do that, I can only submit 500 cards. Cool. What are you going to do about the rest of them? Eric, you're going to submit 500 cards. Bobby, you're going to submit 500 cards. Yannick, 250, just to be on the safe side.
I knew he was going to be safe because we don't really know you.
Handshake
to the
feels
tabernacle. No.
Yep. Also front charge versus backend. By charging the backend, PSA can manage timing the revenue recognition. Yes, that is that was a big part of it because it's an accounting trick. And Cardacy has some background in accounting as well. I think he might be an accountant. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be mistaken on that. But it is true. But you can play games with that because if you charge up front, the revenue is already in. If you charge on the back end, that's potential revenue. But now that you're private, that is less important necessarily for accounting and because you could show potential revenue. That backlog is revenue that's sitting there that hasn't officially hit.
No.
So
And
like
that counts towards their quarter.
yes. So like it's nice from an accounting perspective when you're publicly traded and then you can show, hey, by the way, we got more revenues back here.
Oh yeah.
Remember we even mentioned like
Perfect. Thank you, Courtesy. Appreciate
the
that.
possibility of let's say the market crashes. Let's say like all those cards are worthless and people just don't pay PSA.
Sure.
Right? You have course have to change everything, but just
Yeah.
the fact of man, I'm not paying, I'm cutting my credit card. Everyone does that. PSA is just stuck with all those slabs.
Yeah. That's why I think going forward they're going to have to do something, Yannick. It would be in their best interest to do that, and I'm sure that going forward they probably will look at this. They'll probably watch this video, and
Yep.
Yannick said, "I think he's right."
Yeah.
That's
right. That's right. So Paul here says it isn't PSA's fault. Well, thank you. We can at least acknowledge that. But it's their responsibility to do something. That's right. Nat, send it to the police. Paul has demanded it. Send it to the police and let them deal with it. That's why I hate group submitters. Always a chance for this and cards getting switched. Yeah, no, that's always been a risk with group submitters. I get it. If PSA accepts the money up front, then they need to change the turnaround time of statements. Yeah, no, that's true too. More liability of paying for service level not received in advance opposed to after. That is another major consideration because you've changed the dynamic. Because at least you weren't getting charged until the job was done. We didn't take, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you take the money up front, you're holding the money basically until the transaction is completed. So you're sitting there holding it. If you take a year, you're holding their money for a year. If you take a year and charge on the back end, you're not holding their money. You're holding their card. Still not good, but at least when you finish the transaction, only then are they getting charged. You didn't have to pay up front for something you didn't get yet.
Yeah.
Just bear that in mind. That is important. That's not semantics. That's actually very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, just confirming that. Backlog is deferred revenue. Yes, and also not tax advice. Good qualifier. Good qualifier.
I am not an
Hashtag not tax advice.
Not tax advice. That is a fact. That is a fact. You see, I gave him a chance to talk to AEW. You got to actually put it in the chat. I didn't see any AEW questions. All right, so real quick here. But isn't that deferred revenue at this point? So you could just play the timing a bit. That is more of a tax-related question, not tax advice. I'm not even going to pretend to give it. But what I'm saying is that the whole timing thing was a part of it. And I suspect, especially when they were public, I suspect that was part of the thinking. It is true, though, that now that they're private, it is a little different. But to Jay's point, now the turnaround time becomes even more critical. So maybe you get your wish about the upfront payments. Maybe after the other office is activated and they have the additional capacity, it might actually make more sense for them because it'd be easier for them to control the turnaround time and actually make sure they deliver on it. Because if they're going to take your money up front, then your expectation is going to be that I better get my stuff. Does that make sense? So I think the two things might then kind of coincide. Not guaranteeing that's going to be the case, but it would make more sense. Ray Phoenix Arm, AEW. I'm trying, Paul. I'm trying to give you guys a chance. That's why I said, if there's any other comments about this, go for it. If you want to grab a couple of AEW things, we'll finish it off. We got to. I'll go a couple more minutes, and then we'll kill
Bobby,
it.
do you know what that means?
You don't know
What's
what
that?
a lot of things mean, Eric.
That's
a low bar, Eric.
Long list.
Science, math, English.
Not
What
a
does
fan
it-
of any of them.
I missed that. What mean?
He's talking about the wrestling thing. We had Billy on, Eric. We had Billy on.
I don't know.
He poured his blood, sweat, and tears into that.
I know,
He
but I
did.
really wanted to talk about his hobby. I didn't really care about his cards.
Wow.
I just wanted to talk about his collection.
Yeah.
We'll have to invite Billy back and be like, so Eric was denouncing your entire life's work. Oh, man.
I just said I didn't care. I didn't say they were bad. I just
Yeah,
said
but
I
you
don't care.
but you talk about hockey and no one cares and we let you do it anyway.
And I appreciate that.
We're being very nice here. We're being very nice.
I agree.
Like, let that rub off on you a little bit. Could you,
right.
at least pretend? Could you at least pretend?
Okay, I'll try.
Jeez, can't take you anywhere, man. Anyway, guys, so any last comments or thoughts? I think we've covered a lot of ground on this. If we got anything else, we'll touch on it, I think, tomorrow. The big over point is that, like I said, I don't have any problem with anything Paul said. I understood his perspective and his point. There is something that should be done theoretically. The problem is that, like I said, this is the unique situation. PSA is not in the wrong here. They did not do anything wrong, and they're the ones being expected to carry the burden of this, which is really unfortunate because it's like, they should be like, hey guys, we didn't do anything wrong this time.
Right.
You blame us for everything, and the one time we don't do anything wrong is the time that it's on us to fix it. Why do we have to fix it? We didn't do it this time.
wear the hat. Always.
Yeah,
Eric, Billy's in Clubhouse too, you know.
I know.
You're gonna
Yeah, they're gonna have words.
They became
They show you facial
Words.
expressions, but you can't see them. All they can do is have words.
yeah.
I've told him, and I've told other people. I've told Carvin. I've told a few people about their products don't mean anything to me. But good luck with them.
True
He
enough.
seemed insincere.
That's fine. That's fair.
Yep.
They know what I collect and what I like. I mean, what am I going to do with a
You can't
modern
make
day
them like
this or,
vintage. You can't.
you know,
You know. You can't make you like something they made yesterday.
right? I guess not
And
excited about
hard
it.
printed on purpose, and
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
Okay, so here we go. Let's do this here. So this is Jay kind of just chatting with Paul a little bit here. So I give PSA. So PSA gives Marx back cards for free that were graded. What should be done? Read Card Collector 2. What's fair in the situation? Well, Card Collector 2 is the one who's going to have to live for compensation for Marx. But I'll leave you guys to chat that piece back and forth. To the panel, have PSA cards been PSA slabs been compromised? Yeah. That's the reason why they've updated the. That's why they came up with the Lighthouse Holder, because as time goes on, people figure out how to counterfeit the stuff. The whole thing with the Dallas show is that apparently the Mike Baker stickers are good, but some of the slabs were bad. So like they had been kind of messed around with. And some of the serial numbers were actually ones that PSA had like stricken from the database and they were still being reused. Other ones scanned, but the labels had been redone and remade. So almost every holder will be compromised eventually. All of them.
True.
Because again, we're back to there's a lot of money in this. There's a lot of good reasons for people to figure out a way to either figure out how to counterfeit this or figure out how to reopen this. That the other piece that people forget is if you can figure out how to reopen it and then re-sonically seal it or get close enough that it seems like it's sonically sealed, you can swap out the card. You can take a good card, take it out, replace it with a lower condition or bad card, put it in the holder. The holder's real, the label's real, everything's real, except the card inside it is not necessarily what was originally in the holder. So in that case, you got a real holder and real everything. Even the card's real, but it's like, oh, why is that a PSA 10? Actually, it wasn't. That wasn't the card that was in that holder before. But you take the good card and you resubmit it. That's a very simple con that people can do.
Oh yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
time to try to maybe like improve the slab itself, the plastic?
I already have the idea for that. I gave him the idea a long time ago. If around, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bobby.
No, you.
You.
Okay, me.
Go
No,
ahead.
if around the outside where it's sonically sealed, if they put a piece of like foil or what have you, maybe that you know how they do those that rainbow colored whatever, and as soon as it breaks, you can see the split, and you can never really get it back together because it won't match up. It'll never match up again. So I think that's probably the best. Once something's open, it'll never be able to put back. Because you can sonically reseal,
Yeah.
Carlos, you're saying it can happen.
Yeah, no, I know.
If pried apart perfectly.
The technology of sonic sealing does not guarantee that you cannot reseal. You can 100% redo it.
It's vibration. It's not even. It's not even ultraviolet.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The technology allows it. There are ways to get around. You have to be super careful, but if you're incentivized with enough money, you could certainly try. It would be worth for you to at least give it a shot. So Paul here just says, if PSA has the Excel sheet from Marx, that's all they need. So okay, let's play with it. We got the perspective of one bulk submitter. I'll hopefully talk to Brad. We'll have a chat with him hopefully tomorrow. But we got perspective of one bulk submitter. When they submit it, they don't put anybody's name on it. It's a big list of cards. Okay, you got their Excel spreadsheet. Okay, these are the cards. Paul, which one belongs to you? The Kobe, the LeBron.
10.
Yeah, those 10s, those are mine. How does PSA know any different? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but I'm actually being serious. If you're getting a big list of cards, and that's what you were supposed to submit and grade, and there is no identifiable, I actually don't know whose cards belong to who. It's not even about bookkeeping. It literally doesn't say who it belongs to. It's just a big, long list of cards. Marx is the one who has the list of who it belongs to. If Marx decides not to be cooperative, why? Marx doesn't have to give him crap. Because they're already in trouble right now anyway. It doesn't matter what they do, they're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble no matter what. So it's like they don't have to be cooperative. They can even give you the list of the cards, and what good does that do you?
So who cards belongs to who or whom?
That's what I'm getting at. But it's there.
Exactly.
It's very easy. It would be very easy to just give the bare minimum and leave out some pertinent details like, okay, but which ones are their cards? Are these 5 theirs? Are these 5 theirs? Are the last 5? Where does it fall on this list?
10 duplicates of.
And what if the same card has been submitted? What if I got the 10 and you got the 9 and we flip it because we put it in wrong? Yeah. But that's my point.
That's what happened before.
That's exactly. It's not bad grading. I got the wrong cards. Somebody else sent in the exact same card.
Gretzky, I knew it.
Shirks. I knew it. But that's why I say, there's a lot. Wherever there's money incentive, there's plenty of incentive to cheat. On every level of that transaction. I'm just being honest with you guys. There's plenty of incentive to cheat on every level of it. Again, the cynical, longtime person in the hobby, I'm sorry, it's not sunshine and rainbows. I don't have a good answer for you.
But he seems like a good guy.
He seems like a good guy. That's important.
That's always how it starts on the news when they're looking for the guy who's burning all the houses down. He seems like a good guy.
They always seem like a good guy. You know who else are always good guys?
But for
Serial
that
killers.
5 minutes, he was a bad guy.
No, but you know who else are always good guys? Serial killers. He seemed like a nice man.
Exactly. He seems
Yeah.
like a nice
Minus the
guy.
whole serial killing thing. He seemed like a nice man.
99% of the time, he was good.
Yeah, kept to himself. He's quiet. Pillar of the community. Shame he has to be taken away.
Killer of the community or pillar? Yes.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes.
He was keeper to himself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, guys. Last comments, and then we'll wind her down and call it an evening. Thank you for the comments. Some comments and questions. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of discussion and debate, and we definitely did. Like I said, to everyone here, appreciate your perspective on it. like I said to Paul as well, Paul's a good guy, and I appreciate his perspective. He's very much consumer centric. He's trying to take care of the consumer, and I do appreciate that. My goal in this situation is not to downplay it. I just have to be like, look, there are some real challenges to it. And if the putting the onus on PSA, I understand they have money, but putting the onus on them just because they have money when they're not the party that caused this, it opens up a lot of problems. You're trying to fix one problem and you create 10 more. So that's why they're going to have to be very careful what they do. No matter what the response is, by the way, they're going to be criticized. I guarantee they're going to be criticized. There is no perfect one that will get them universal praise. Some people will complain about no matter what they do, like we touched on tonight. And even if they try their absolute best to make good with everybody, somebody will cry about this loudly, and we will never hear the end of it.
I think
more of those-
if Brad comes on, I think he'll probably have more information about how they're going
100%.
to deal with it, and he'll be more comfortable sharing some of the things that we talked about this morning and all that. So
Yeah. And I will make a very important caveat to this. Whenever Brad is on, we've talked about it before, and we'll repeat it when the time is right. He speaks on his own behalf as a person who works with PSA. He doesn't work for PSA, to be
Correct.
clear. He is a bulk submitter. He has a good relationship with PSA, but he will give his opinion based on what he understands and what he's been able to discuss. That's always a caveat we put in there. Like, it's good of him to say anything at all, and it's good of him to share his opinion with it, and we are appreciative of that, and we'll make sure to do that. So, any pitchforks and torches, like Ruly Mob, we keep a Ruly Mob here, very Ruly. Single file. Make sure to register all your pitchforks and torches at the door.
So you're saying Brad doesn't speak for Nat?
I don't think he does. No,
No. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll write that down.
I don't know if he've even talked to Nat.
I speak for our Fanatics Overlords after the bag has arrived. But yes, other than that,
Only until that time.
only at that time do they. I officially speak for them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, great point. How the hell would you know what you're actually getting back? Yeah, and that's why I say, like, it's not, as a person who professionally has to put out fires and solve problems, I wouldn't want to deal with this one. I wouldn't want this one. I like a challenge, but this is beyond a challenge. There are a lot of intricacies here. There are a lot of layers, and as soon as you peel one back, it's like, oh my god, that's worse than I thought. As soon as you peel another one back, oh my god, it's even worse than that.
Don't touch it.
I think it's pretty straightforward, really.
I think with the legal things, no, it's not. What PSA was going to have to do to even attempt to take care of it, from their perspective, to even try to make good, again, with all the complaints they're going to get anyway, they're going to have a lot. And by the way, every single individual they're going to have to deal with is going to be a different problem. There's not going to be a universal solution that's going to work for the whole stack of them. I can promise that in advance. That is a prediction I'm comfortable making. Yeah, and all this stuff makes me so happy to collect worthless TTM autographs of obscure players. Hey,
There you go.
there's room for everybody in the hobby, Bob. We're Canadian, Bob. Sorry, can we ride? Well, as long as you ask permission. Excuse the Pittsburgh charges. We'll be on our way shortly. No pushing or shoving. Paul's got it. The spirit of Canada. That's Canada.
That's awesome.
Orderly. Orderly.
There's no riots. It's always peacefully protested.
All right. Paul wins comment of the night.
And somebody brought donuts. Oh, sweet. Timmy's.
All right.
Love it. Love it.
Double.
Absolutely.
Timbits.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Appreciate you hanging out. This actually turned out to be a very nice impromptu live. It was a lot of fun. So we'll have to do that.
A
All right.
2-hour impromptu.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, we had content. And again, thank you all for the comments. It's been very good. A great discussion, great conversation. Thank you to Bobby for joining me, Yannick for popping in and joining us. We're gonna get his audio figured out. He was actually good, but quiet. We'll pump up the volume on him a little bit, but we'll fix that. And then Eric, thank you for chiming in and joining us as always. And you promised that you will be nicer to Billy's work, right?
I will.
I'm going into Clubhouse and telling everybody.
Damn right. All right, Wrestling All-Stars memorabilia. We'll have to get my rest, take my vitamins, and drink my milk for tomorrow's show. Yes. And the newest content the Lords will bestow upon the community. Thank you. You were 100% correct.
I just have to get invited to Clubhouse first.
There you go.
You don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
you
of
probably
course
already have
not.
the invite.
Why not, right?
No, you
Because
don't-
they
you
want
don't
more
need-
people. Yeah.
You've probably already been invited. You just have to download the app. It's already there.
Can let's tell Name to start coming up with his excuses of why he can't join us now.
That's
Well,
true. Name, you've got
children-
time. You've got time. You can
Yeah.
start early. Start early and prepare the latest excuse for tomorrow. We
Yes.
want a good one for tomorrow night. We
Yeah,
want a
nice,
good one.
a nice one.
Yeah, give
Yeah.
us a good one. Be creative. Workshop it with the family. Whatever you need to do, workshop it.
Yeah.
Figure something good out.
You got 23 hours. So
I'm sure he was out in the wilderness portaging. By the way, you can't steal that. I already gave it to you. You got to come up with a different one. Come
Yeah,
up with a
yeah.
different one. But
That's
that's
right.
the kind of thing we're talking about.
Carrying the canoe
Attaboy.
through the forest.
Useless.
Portage. There you go. Already making a list. Yes, love it. All right, thank you all. We'll catch you on Friday. We'll be here 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about this and anything else. If we can make fun of Logan Paul some more, we will. Why not?
Oh, we got some good stuff tomorrow.
Yeah,
too.
we got some more stuff. We'll definitely have some, and we'll have Brad on, Brad Hartland from again representing PSA Canada, which is not actually directly with PSA, but they are a bulk submitter in Canadian side. He'll give us his perspective. We'll get some opinions on there, and it'll be good to actually get from somebody who's at least talked to some of the players and at least has an opinion on it. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Jeff. Everybody, have yourself a good night. We'll catch you in the next one.
Like this.